This guy was reborn as a prisoner of war, but he had a hidden talent that would surprise everyone. Before, he had been rejected by a girl, so he quit his job and became addicted to the game Pangaea. After 5 years, he was the only player left. Why? Because the difficulty was insane. But on that day, he was reborn as a slave in the world of Pangaea, a place with a system interface where he possessed 13 hidden talents, making him a genius with every weapon. In a scorching desert, intense heat hung over the vast expanse of sand. Suddenly, a group of warriors encountered a giant three-headed creature. Spears in hand, they prepared to face the imminent threat. Then, his opponent struck, plunging the sword directly into his chest. As one enemy fell wounded, Randolph remained focused on the battle ahead. Advancing without hesitation, he brought down the next opponent with a precise strike. After the flurry of attacks, he took a deep breath, trying to regain his strength. In response, they yelled, calling him a monstrous wretch. Feeling the weight of the battle, he stooped, leaning on his sword. Seeing an opportunity, the leader shouted for his men to kill the exhausted monster. As blood streamed, his gaze remained steady against all enemies. Even wounded and tired, a defiant smile appeared on his lips. Breathing heavily, he lifted his head one last time before acting. Finally, he ran and leaped towards the screaming, advancing group. Gripping his weapon tightly, he prepared for whatever came next. Immediately, system windows popped up, activating several hidden abilities at once. Seeing he was tired, the enemies screamed for everyone to attack together. With a furious roar, he reacted to his opponent's coordinated assault. The scene shifted. A messy room showed food wrappers scattered across a table. Sitting in a chair, a young man remained completely absorbed by his computer screen. Suddenly, the game over screen appeared, showing his character finally defeated. Frustrated, he angrily yelled, asking what kind of trash game this was. From above, he remained still, surrounded by the clutter of his room. Looking out the window, he watched the city's hustle and bustle on a normal day. With an empty expression, he turned away from the window and faced the computer again. On the table, the keyboard was mixed in with several empty food wrappers. He then paused for a moment, staring at the screen without showing any reaction. After a while, his gaze turned serious, fully focusing on the monitor again. And then, the login screen for the old game Pangaea displayed on the computer. Promising to grant a wish, the game had attracted many players who quickly became frustrated. 5 years later, the game was still undefeated, and almost no one played it anymore. Due to its absurd difficulty, the game had been heavily criticized since its launch. There were bosses that seemed impossible to defeat, frustrating all players. Even allies could betray you, attacking from behind when you least expected it. To make matters worse, powerful NPCs hunted you if there was a bounty on your head. But worst of all, if a character died, everything was lost. Because of these issues, the game's initial popularity vanished almost instantly. Thinking about all this, he wondered if someone was preventing the game from being cleared. Lamenting his 5 years of effort, he remembered the 8 lost unique items. Suddenly, something unexpected caught his attention, and he expressed his complete surprise. Then, a notification warned him about the deletion, but also that he had gained points. Surprised by the amount, he realized unique items were worth many soul points. Within Pangaea, a system converted character value into points. Using these points, it was possible to buy talents and start a much stronger character. Remembering an old character, he recalled investing 10,000 points into him. Realizing he now had 1,600,000 points, he smiled at the possibilities. Hand on the mouse, he considered creating a safe magic character. Giving up on clearing the game, he clicked random to have fun one last time. Confirming his decision, he pressed the mouse button firmly. Shifting to a flashback, a woman apologized while holding a cup. Not understanding, he asked what she meant. She then explained that she couldn't date someone without any vision for the future anymore. Continuing, she said she now needed to think about marriage because of her age. Having no answer, he simply averted his gaze to the side in silence. Opening her mouth, she continued to explain her reasons for the breakup. She said her friends were marrying men from big companies. After a pause, she stared at him, comparing him to all the others. Unable to say anything, he lowered his head, accepting what he heard. Telling him to forget about it, she rose from her chair, announcing she was leaving. In a whisper, he only wished her a good life. Turning her back, she finally left, leaving him alone in the cafe. This scene happened 3 months ago, ending his long 5-year relationship. Soon after, in a fit of rage, he quit his dead-end job. Since then, he had lived locked in his room as a complete game addict. Returning to the present, he told himself he had been pathetic enough. Determined, he yelled that he was pressing and clicked the mouse button hard. Immediately, the system notified him that 100 soul points had just been used. Unable to believe his eyes, he reacted with surprise at the computer screen. A hidden piece activated, and he wondered what it was. Then a message invited him to Pangaea, leaving him even more confused. Suddenly, His body was pulled into the monitor by an unknown force. With a frightened face, he stared at the bright light that filled the room. A creature screamed that it would destroy the world created by its wretched master. As he was pulled, he screamed in pain, falling into a chaotic place. Hands on his head, he wondered what the hell was happening. Noticing the voice in his mind, his gaze became completely focused and frightened. After that, he crashed onto his computer desk. Unconscious on the bedroom floor, his body lay motionless in front of the monitor. On the screen, a voice wished him happiness in the world of Pangea. Shifting to another place, he was whipped and called useless. Threatening to throw him to the Hydra, the man said it would be the end if he fell. Surprised by the name, he turned his face, trying to understand what he heard. Then a giant foot stomped on the ground, forcing people to retreat. Whipping the other prisoners, the man forced everyone to keep moving. Completely lost, he looked around, questioning his situation. Facing the Hydra, he noticed his hands were bound by strong chains. Receiving another blow, the man shouted for him to get into formation immediately. Lying on the ground, he heard the man yell for him to get up now. With great difficulty, he tried to stand, his gaze filled with determination. Walking in a line, they continued their trek through the hot, dusty sand. With a new appearance, he observed what was happening around him. In the distance, he recognized the Hydra as the monster from the game Pangea. Looking at the horizon, he realized the landscape also seemed familiar. Wanting to test something, he commanded the status window to finally appear. To his surprise, a system panel floated right in front of him. Analyzing the information, his eyes widened as he read the window's content. Before him, the screen displayed all his current attributes and abilities. Seeing the status window, he concluded that he had indeed entered the world of Pangea. Realizing it was real, his shocked expression was visible to everyone. He then questioned the fact that all his attributes were at level 12. Looking further down, he was startled to see that he possessed 13 hidden traits. Suddenly, all the prisoners stopped and stared in amazement in the same direction. Not understanding anything, he looked around, trying to figure out what was happening. Even the guards, who had been calm before, now seemed much more tense. On the horizon, a cloud of dust rose with the arrival of the army. Emerging from the dust, the Desert Queen's army broke the pact and attacked. On top of the creature, the leader shouted for everyone to prepare for battle. Seeing the scene, he became completely paralyzed, unable to show any reaction. Looking at the woman, he recognized her as the fearsome serpent princess. At that moment, a system window appeared, generating a new main quest. Reading the survival mission, he saw that failure resulted in death. Immediately afterward, a shower of arrows was fired in the direction of the prisoners. "Hit!" the men screamed desperately, trying to run to a safe place. In the midst of the chaos, he saw people falling while calling for help. With a dirty face, he watched the massacre around him without reaction. His eyes wide, he processed the imminent danger of his surroundings. Then, one of his 13 hidden abilities was activated by the system. The ability notification stated that he would not tire so easily. Seeing the men fall, his focus shifted to his own survival. Seeing the fallen guard, he realized he needed to act to survive. Running towards the sword, he hurried to pick it up from the ground. He then quickly bent down and grabbed the fallen weapon. Gripping the sword firmly, he prepared for the imminent combat. Standing with the new weapon, he faced the enemies with a determined gaze. Then, an adversary leaped towards him, ready to deliver a deadly attack. Reacting to the attack, he blocked the blow and struck the enemy squarely. Throwing the opponent away, he hit him with a precise cut. After the strike, he positioned himself, waiting for his adversary's next move. Then, the system activated the Weapon Master trait, completely changing his gaze. Running through the sand, he readies himself, maintaining full focus on his next move. Shouting furiously, one of the guards calls him a scoundrel and lunges to attack. Dodging the blow, he ducks, narrowly escaping the blade. The enemy's weapon then breaks on the ground, leaving him completely off balance. Gripping the hilt, he realizes it's the first time he's used it, yet he attacks with the staff, hitting the enemy perfectly. Seeing this, another guard charges forward, yelling, ready to attack with his sword. Dodging once more, he leans back, narrowly escaping the fatal blow. Looking up, he realizes his skill far exceeds what he imagined. His mastery extended to various weapons, including longswords and axes. Blocking the attack, he instantly crosses swords with his enemy. Just then, he discerns the sword's path, predicting the enemy's next strike. With focused eyes, he realizes he can now see the flow of combat. Dodging precisely, he leans to the side, evading the enemy's cut. Then he lunges forward and lands a direct blow to his opponent's face. Grabbing the enemy's axe, he prepares to continue fighting. With the new weapon, he attacks the next guard without a second thought. Ignoring the guard's plea, he finishes the strike brutally and swiftly. Exhausted, he leans on his sword, facing the remaining guards. Struggling to catch his breath, his gaze remains fixed on the enemies before him. Seeing the scene, the guards call him a wretch and question the situation. Then, the system activates another trait, increasing his weapon proficiency. He realizes his proficiency is already at level 6, that of a knight. Gripping his sword, he understands that his hidden traits are his only hope, but facing 500 enemies, he questions the conscience behind such a mission. Shifting to a throne room, the serpent princess kneels before her queen. Seated on the throne, the queen asks if the expedition to the demonic realm failed. Insisting on an answer, she stares at the princess, awaiting confirmation of the news. With downcast eyes, the princess merely confirms that the mission indeed failed. The queen then states they must prevent the continent from blaming them for the failure. Giving the order, the queen commands the princess to kill all survivors of the expedition. She explains that any proof of their failure must be completely erased. As a reward, the queen promises she will finally lift her curse. Clenching her fists, the princess agrees to the mission and accepts the terms. The queen then warns that, this time, she cannot fail under any circumstances. Returning to the desert, the princess observes the battle's outcome from afar. One of her subordinates approaches and asks if the cleanup is complete. He then reports that a single slave is still standing, resisting. Surprised by the news, she questions how a slave could have survived. On the ground, the bodies of the guards are scattered across the battlefield. Amidst the dead, he leans on his sword, the sole survivor. As he catches his breath, a level-up notification appears before him. With the alert, all his life, mana, and fatigue are fully restored. Completely refreshed, he stands, ready to continue whatever combat comes next. Seeing this, one of the leaders shouts for all his men to back away. Appearing atop a creature, the princess surprises all her soldiers present. He faces the woman, stating that she had finally arrived for the confrontation. Remembering her name, he identifies her as Isabella von Dercian, the princess. A status window then appears, but most of its information is blocked. Noticing her level 8, he concludes there's no way he can win this fight. In the world of Pangea, level 7 was already a difficult threshold. Therefore, level 8 was an achievement only for the strongest leaders. Facing his opponent, he braces for the disaster to come. Analyzing the window again, he notices a strange active curse effect. She then leaps from the creature and lands lightly on the sandy ground. With a serious look, she says his talent is quite interesting, but she warns that despite this, he must die at that very moment. Recalling the past, he remembers why he always played such difficult games. He enjoyed finding a way to beat the most impossible games. This was because he considered himself a pervert among gaming perverts. Trusting his prediction, he watches her run toward him to attack. She then leaps into the air, preparing a powerful blow to strike him squarely. With a confident smile, he asks if she doesn't want to remove the curse. Hearing the proposal, she stops her attack at the last instant, right in front of him. Without showing fear, he continues speaking, maintaining the same calm gaze and expression. In response, she angrily points a dagger directly at his neck. Looking deep into his eyes, she questions him, wanting to know who he is. With a serious face, she demands to know her opponent's true identity. He then replies that he is the one who lost, and now guides the stars. Introducing himself, he says he is a star weaver and offers his help. Her eyes widening, she is utterly shocked by his unexpected proposal. Seeing her reaction, he realizes his plan had worked. He then reflects that this is a very powerful and rare NPC class. To remove the curse, the blessing of a star weaver was necessary. Faced with the tempting proposal, she lowers her head, pondering what she heard. He was sure she wanted to be rid of the curse for a reason. The truth was, Isabella von Dercian was a character he himself had created. Facing her creator, she had no idea about the truth of her own existence. Every player's destiny is to travel the world to see the ending, but he had abandoned this character, who remained trapped by the queen's curse. Not understanding, she simply asks what name he uses now. Stating his name is Randolph, the system confirms the character's new alias. After a moment, the two continue staring at each other in total silence. Putting away her dagger, she warns that she will postpone his death for now. Stepping away from him, she stares, delivering one last serious threat. She then warns that she will kill him if it all turns out to be a lie. Turning to the soldiers, she orders them all to serve him carefully. Completing the quest, the system announces that the result was simply legendary. With beginner's luck, rewards are improved, and new items are gained. Completely exhausted, he finally collapses onto the sand, realizing he had indeed survived. To conclude, a notification states that his score will be updated in the Hall of Fame. Changing scenes, night falls upon a city with a grand structure. Inside a luxurious room, he relaxes in the bathtub while analyzing his rewards. Concentrated, he continues reading the information from the floating system windows. Reading the rewards, he's surprised to have acquired the soul of the Hydra. Afterward, he reads the description of the item that synchronizes reality with Pangea. Suddenly, 3 maids enter the bathroom, startling him with their appearance. Holding towels, they offer to give him a full bath right then and there. Asking them to wash his feet, he wonders if this is some kind of test. Just then, one of the maids approaches and carefully begins to wash his hand. Recognizing Isabella's maids, he knows he cannot show any reaction, so he struggles to maintain composure and not react to his instincts. Averting his gaze, he focuses on not raising any suspicions about himself. Suddenly, one of the maids gasps, seeing something unexpected in front of her. In a panic, he calls up the status window to try and resolve the situation. Confused by the circumstances, he tries to understand what just happened. Reading the window, he discovers that the boundary between worlds is fading. Processing everything, he continues reading the information displayed by the status window. Then, the Hall of Fame opens, showing him in first place in the ranking. One of the maids then questions him about being a star weaver. With a shocked expression, he notices something he hadn't until now. Recognizing the names, he understands that other players have also been summoned to Pangea. But another piece of information catches his attention even more at that exact moment. Seeing the notification, he discovers that the logout function has finally been activated. Realizing the chance, he understands he can finally leave that accursed game. Waving the maids away, he tells them all to leave, as he needs to communicate with the stars. He then warns that a failure in communication could cause him to lose his powers. Hearing the explanation, the maid doesn't know what to do or how to react. Wishing him good communication, they leave and close the grand bathroom door. Finally alone, he prepares to put his plan into action. Relieved, he celebrates that his flimsy excuse actually worked. Stepping out of the bathtub, he admits he was nervous, thinking he'd be stuck. Bidding farewell forever, he prepares to press the logout button. With a quick touch, he finally presses the button to exit the game. Just then, the system initiates the logout process and asks him to wait. While logging out, the system warns that death in the game is also real. Back in reality, the first thing he sees is his empty room. But looking out the window, he sees the entire city in flames and destruction. In the streets, people run desperately, screaming for help amidst the chaos. Amidst the fire, a giant creature emerges, causing more panic and destruction. On his phone, an emergency disaster message is displayed on the screen. Shocked by the scene, he wonders what the hell is happening outside. Suddenly, a giant monster's head appears right at his window. Yelling loudly, the creature opens its mouth and reveals something very strange. Terrified by the scene, he screams and falls backward, recoiling in fear, questioning everything. He doesn't understand why Pangea's monsters are in reality. Just then, a small golden object falls to the floor beside him. Lying on the ground, it was the golden rule fragment from the game. Remembering his survival mission, he recalled being surrounded by enemies. Reliving the battles, he remembered the fights and meeting the princess. With a terrified face, he finally woke from the vivid dream that felt so real. Sitting in his chair, he looked around, wondering where he was. Seeing his room, he wondered if he had slept too long while playing video games, but he quickly dismissed the idea, saying this wasn't one of those novels. Staring at the table, he saw some game items materialized right in front of him. Holding the fragment, he yelled, questioning if it had all been real. Shouting in a panic, he thrust his hand into his pocket in a desperate gesture. Rushing to his computer, he discovered the game's page no longer existed. Seeing the site down, he wondered how long it had been like that. Suddenly, he heard screams of people calling for help outside. Through the window, a monster attacked a man, throwing him hard to the ground. With the man down, others started running far away. In the street, police shot at the monsters, calling for backup on the radio. Receiving an alert, he looked out the window, questioning what was happening. Seeing the creature, he wondered why monsters from Pangea were in his world. Falling backward, he unconsciously dropped the golden fragment to the floor. Remembering the message, he understood the boundary between worlds was fading. In complete panic, he looked around, unsure what to do now. With his hand on the floor, he finally picked up the fallen golden object. Holding the item, he sat down, getting an idea to resolve the situation. If the game's monsters were real, he began to consider a possibility. Rushing to the table, he believed his items could also be used here. Opening the reward bag, a strong light emanated from inside the object. Suddenly, Michaela's sword and the Hydra's soul appeared, floating. Holding the soul, he wondered how to activate the item without a mouse. Remembering the fragment, he read that it synchronized the two worlds. He knew he couldn't do anything alone, but his game character could. Activating the item, synchronization with his character. Randolph was finally completed. The system then informed him the item had a remaining time of 24 hours. Running down a destroyed street, a person passed fallen bodies. Amidst the chaos, a woman ran, carrying her daughter in her arms to escape. The daughter then asked for her father, and the mother promised he'd arrive. Suddenly, several building debris began to fall towards them. With the impact, the girl fell to the ground, separated from her mother by dust. Seeing her mother trapped, The girl screamed, and her mother told her to flee. At that moment, a woman ran up and asked if the girl was okay. Injured, the mother asked the woman to take the child and flee far away. With a determined expression, the woman decided what to do to save them. Saying she was sorry, she promised to take the child to a safe place. Turning her face to the side, she noticed a new threat approaching rapidly. Before she could react, a monster attacked, piercing her body with its claw. Holding the child, she faced the monster, paralyzed by the imminent danger. Suddenly, a swift attack cut through the air, passing by them in seconds. Slashing the monster's claws, he saved the woman and the child. With his eyes glowing, he turned to face the other creatures. Rushing at the monsters, he attacked them all with his sword in hand. Unable to believe what she saw, she widened her eyes at the scene. Realizing she had survived, she hugged the child tightly in her arms. Looking at her savior, she wondered who that mysterious person was. Then, the main creature turned and lunged towards him. Screaming desperately, she warned him to watch out for the monster behind him. Then, the monster attacked with full force, bringing its claw down to crush him. Fallen to the ground, she trembled with fear, unsure what to do now. Behind him, a 9-headed dragon appeared, surprising everyone there. On one of its heads, a small creature prepared to give an order. With a quick command, he ordered the giant creature to stand completely still. Observing the scene, the woman was completely paralyzed by what she saw. Smiling in complete shock, she wondered if it was all a dream. Screaming for her mother, the girl ran towards her amidst the rubble. Observing the scene, the woman saw the little girl desperately running to her mother. Suddenly, her gaze shifted to the side, focusing on something surprising. Seeing the monsters devouring the dragon, she wondered who that man was. Changing scene, monsters attacked cities worldwide, destroying everything. But along with them, warriors emerged to fight the invading creatures. Amidst the battle, one warrior's armor began to glow. Raising his sword, he told everyone not to worry about his safety. Watching the news on screen, someone reacted with contempt to the speech. Sitting on the couch, he called those who wasted fragments fools. Holding his items, Player Massacre realized reality was changing. Clenching his fist, he knew the most powerful would be the main player. Then, the ranking showed Randolph in first with an unbelievable score. The sudden update then raised the question of who that player could be. Known as a ghost, he was the first to nearly clear the entire game. But as a result, the expedition ended in complete and total failure. As the #1 player, he was summoned as soon as his character died. When summoned, players inherited the talents of their old characters. With a smile, he said there could only be one person with that score. Back in the game, he smiled, understanding the current situation's complexity. Now, monsters and players were appearing in the real world with their characters. Closing his eyes, he began to get an idea of what was happening. Remembering his near victory, he recalled the betrayal he suffered in the game. In the end, the mercenaries he hired betrayed and attacked him. Thinking about it, he wondered if the traitors weren't also summoned players. Getting out of the bathtub, he understood he could now also be a target. With the boundary between worlds broken, he couldn't just stay logged off. Leaving his room, he decided he needed to get stronger as fast as possible. Sitting on the throne, Isabella asked if he had finished his communication with the stars. Answering yes, he said he came to fulfill his promise to her. Saying he had a condition, he made Isabella quite curious about the proposal. As the servants withdrew, she prepared to hear what he wanted. Asking to go to the sanctuary, he left her in shock with the request. Calling him insane, she denied the request, but he insisted on his goal. With a smile, he said that's where he could get what he desired. Under the glow of the full moon, the sanctuary ruins stood imposing. Stepping into a pool of blood, she enters the site without hesitation. Moving through the corridor, she walks past the bodies of the defeated guards. With her dagger in hand, she prepares for any appearing threat. Seeing her from afar, he thinks how good it is to have her as an ally. Flashing back in time, Isabella is shocked to hear the request to go to the sanctuary. He then explains that the next mission is about obtaining the class he desires. With a smile, he states that the stars are right there for him to obtain. Still doubting, she asks if the stars are really there, and he confirms. He explains that he needs to obtain a star to break the curse with its blessing. Warning of the danger, she decides to give him one last chance to leave. Relieved, he knows that if persuasion failed, his head would roll. Stopping at the entrance, she announces they've finally reached his desired destination. Facing the dark staircase, he prepares to enter the dangerous Holy Land. At this, the system warns him that the recommended level for exploration is 8, but thanks to his demonic resistance, he can enter without major issues. Thinking of the reward, he realizes it would be good to let Isabella go first. However, his main focus was elsewhere at that moment. Going down the stairs, he prepares to obtain a new class in the sanctuary. Focused on his objective, He knows he can obtain that specific class. Walking through the ruins, they delve deeper into the dangerous, shadowy sanctuary. In silence, Isabella merely observes the place with a very serious expression. With her long hair flying, she continues to observe the surroundings. With a smile, she seems to feel very confident in that dangerous place. Seeing her stop, he grabs her and asks where she thinks she's going. With a smile, she warns that the bridge in front of them is a trap. Suggesting he's scared, she teases him, laughing at his hesitation. With an irritated face, she becomes completely offended by his accusation. Calling him a coward, she crosses her arms and denies being scared. Feigning a cramp, he sits on the ground and asks her to carry him. Yelling in anger, she asks if he wants to die for daring to say that. Explaining the urgency, he says it's better to carry her than to watch her hesitate. Even reluctantly, she closes her eyes and ends up yielding to his argument. Already on his back, she complains, saying she'd never do this without the cramp. Asking her to hold on, he prepares to run with all his might. Then, he starts running quickly across the rocky plain ahead. Desperate, she shouts that he's taking the completely wrong and dangerous path. Ignoring the warning, he simply jumps into the large, dark abyss. During the fall, his hidden mutation trait is activated by the system. With the new ability, he sees a secret path that was previously invisible. Confirming her suspicion, he replies that it was the true path. She then wonders how he knows a path she didn't even know existed. With a smile, he teases her, asking if the second in command is scared. Very irritated, she questions if he really wants to die for being so heavy. Climbing a ladder, she notices he treats her like an old friend. Suspicious, she asks if they hadn't met before somewhere. He then replies that they had never met in the same space before. He explains that he had seen her, but she had never seen him before. Carried by a light, they are transported to a new location. The strong light envelops them, taking them to the next stage of the sanctuary. Arriving at the site, they gently land in a field covered with flowers. Looking around, he recalls that the place has a domain barrier. Inside a cave, a red glow emerges from the darkness. From the rock walls, various stone creatures begin to form. Rising from the ground, the creatures prepare to attack the invaders. In front of them, a giant stone golem appears with a crystal in its chest. Seeing the Guardian, he knows that at the current level, a scratch would be fatal. Taunting, she asks if his cramp has passed, and he tells her to shut up. Suddenly, the golem attacks with full force, aiming a blow at both of them. With a clenched fist, the stone creature prepares for the attack. Descending with full force, the stone creature smashes the ground with its fist. With a confident smile, Isabella prepares to counterattack the monster. With a single strike, she stops the golem's attack and shatters it. Next, she destroys the creature's arm, which breaks into rocks. Looking at the creature, she warns that everything will end quickly. With her daggers, she begins to cut and destroy the smaller golems. Seeing the destruction, the larger golem prepares for a new attack. In response, she attacks and destroys all the golems with her strikes. Seeing her power, he's impressed by the character he himself created. With her chains, she binds and crushes the surrounding stone creatures. After dodging, she attacks and destroys the golem with a powerful blow. Observing the fight, a system window appears right in front of him. With the golem's defeat, the system offers him the Artisan class. In Pangea, this was a very good and rare summoning class, but since it wasn't the one he wanted, he simply refuses the offer. He refuses because the person who can give him the desired class is someone else. At this, a strange energy emerges, leaving Isabella completely surprised and alert. Across the ground, the energy spreads rapidly throughout the vast field of flowers. Covering the mountains, the system warns that the local king is irritated. Looking up, he says the creature finally decided to show itself. Then, the giant serpent appears, revealing itself to be the ancient king and guardian, Dramut. Feeling immense pressure, he faced the creature, wondering what it was. Recognizing the serpent, he identified her as the guardian of the sanctuary mountain. With a smile, he told her not to worry about the guardian, but the creature attacked, firing a beam of energy in their direction. She was thrown backward, powerfully slammed by the impact of the blow. After the attack, she managed to brace herself on the ground, embedding her daggers. Turning to the side, he simply smiled with a very strange expression. Shocked, she stared at him, unable to believe what had happened. She then questioned if this seemed like the kind guide he had described. The guardian told her to defeat him, but she cried out that it wasn't her. He then asked if she would give up after having defeated the guardian. With no time to respond, the guardian attacked with her tail once more. Struck, She kept shouting that she wasn't the one who challenged her. Dodging the blow, she asked for the method, but he remembered nothing. His eyes wide, he finally seemed to understand what had truly happened. As a spiritual creature, Dramit gained wisdom from the star's energy. When he cleared the area, he was using his strongest character, Wilhelm. Since he was powerful, the Guardian took him to the star without any issues. Trying to find a way, he realized that Dramit only attacks those who are weaker. Suddenly, his eyes widened as an idea for the fight struck him, but Isabella was thrown aside, falling hard to the ground again. Lying there, she gnashed her teeth in pain, unable to move properly. Seeing herself paralyzed, she wondered if it was a mistake to trust him. In front of her, the creature's tail prepared for the final attack. Shouting the serpent's name, he ordered the creature to stop the attack. At his command, the tail paused in midair, and the creature turned around. With a surprised look, the serpent stared at the man who had called her. Annoyed, the Guardian asked how he dared to know her true name. With a smile, he said that her master, Wilhelm, had finally returned. Lying on the ground, Isabella watched the scene, surprised by what had just happened. Surprised, the creature questioned him, asking if he was truly Wilhelm. With a loud laugh, the serpent opened her mouth, scoffing at his claim. Covering his ears, he heard the creature mock his current weakness. The serpent then stated that Wilhelm was a powerful and perfect superhuman. With glowing eyes, she recalled that her former master had a perfect death. Shouting, she warned that he was not worthy of speaking such an important name. In response, light enveloped his body, and he assumed a new form. Demanding the contract be fulfilled, he was thrown backward by the Guardian's tail. Furious, the monster asked how he knew of the ancient contract's existence. With a smile, he knew that no one should know that game secret. According to the contract, whoever obtained the star would become the new master of the mountain. With that, the Guardian would follow the new master's orders. Realizing the rules worked, he understood that he was unaffected by the contract. The creature then questioned him about his true identity and who he was. He replied that if she wanted to know, the star would prove everything. The creature warned that the star had no mercy for those who didn't qualify. With a smile, he said they would know when they arrived at the location. Annoyed by his arrogance, the serpent wondered what he relied on so much. Agreeing to take him, the serpent stated it was uncomfortable to deal with him. She then moved away and prepared to guide the two to the star. Arriving at the location, Isabella wondered if the star was truly there. Looking up, the Guardian pointed to the top of a large structure. He then pointed and said that the object on the altar was the star. On top of the altar, a skull rested upon a strange symbol. He then explained that, to be precise, it was Ria's face. After the goddess's death, her body was divided into 32 stars. Picking up the skull, he explained that it was used to achieve transcendence. Suddenly, the skull began to shine intensely with a very strong light. Then, a massive energy explosion engulfed the entire area. Concerned, Isabella screamed and asked if he was all right after the blast. With a smile, the serpent said that the star ultimately didn't recognize him. Amidst the light, his silhouette appeared, holding the glowing skull. With an irritated expression, he emerged unharmed, holding the star in his hands. He knew there would be no problem, as death only occurred with bugs. Looking at the skull, he recalled that obtaining a star granted you a class. With the object in his hands, the skull began to crack and glow. Suddenly, all his hidden abilities manifested around him in the light. Beyond them, a new power emerged, that of the one who faced destruction. A series of system notifications appeared, informing him of his new powers. Absorbing the light, his body began to glow with a very powerful energy. Then, the system announced that he had obtained the class of star successor. Isabella's eyes widened in shock when she saw him absorb the star. Enveloped in a soft light, he turned to the princess in front of him. He then asked what she wished to do once the curse was removed. Without hesitation, she said she wanted to leave the desert and find her family. He said he would bestow the blessing, but there was a condition for it. With a serious expression, he asked her to serve him for 1 year. The scene changed to the queen sitting on her throne with a serious expression. With her back to the light, Isabella prepared to swear her oath to him. With his hand on her shoulder, he prepared to seal the agreement. Holding his hand, she said she was not like a queen and did not lie. After a moment, she averted her gaze, looking a bit embarrassed. Kneeling, she promised to follow him for 1 year as her master. With a smile, he said she had thought carefully before making the decision. He then called Dramit and questioned if the star's master was her master. With wide eyes, the serpent was filled with fear by the question. With a furious glare, he pointed and ordered the scoundrel to lower her head. Then, the system informed him that he had completed the quest with a unique result. Changing scenes, a person stared into the darkness with a very serious look. In the throne room, someone reported that Isabella had invaded the sanctuary with a slave. With the news, The order to capture them immediately was given to all soldiers. Under the strong sun, the city buildings stand out against the horizon. The scene shifts to the front of a coffee shop on a sunny day. Inside, a group of players questions if Randolph is the ghost. With his return, they wonder if they should try to make first contact. A female player then asks how, since they've been looking for him for many years. In response, they suggest using the auction house as bait. With a serious look, she ponders the idea of fishing for the player. At the auction house, a player posts an item with a tracking talisman. With this trap, novice players are often robbed or killed. However, they doubt a veteran like the ghost would fall for such a trick. Annoyed by their disbelief, she prepares to explain her point of view. With a smile, she says he's no ordinary man, and he will fall for it. With suspicious looks, they pull out their phones, ready to make a call. They then conclude that they are better than those wretched players who were killed. Suddenly, the ranking changes, and Player Massacre's privilege is revoked. Seeing the 230 points, he wonders what class could achieve that. Noticing the loss, he laments not being able to use the secret auction house. In the shadows, Player Massacre is surrounded by several bodies scattered across the floor. Holding a player's head, he declares that he kills everyone at the top. Back in the sanctuary, a system notification pops up for the two players. As the first to clear it, they receive a reward and a teleport book. With a smile, he says the ride wasn't as bad as he thought. At this, the system informs him that he has accumulated experience and leveled up. Seeing the window, he realizes that leveling up is slower, but grants more stats. But he knows that what's important now isn't the stats he just gained. With his arms crossed, he thinks about the items he received as a reward. Not understanding, Isabella watches him as he stretches with a smile. He then explains that one of the items he received was the Cloak of Shadows. Outside, a large energy explosion suddenly occurs. With a glowing eye, the Guardian Dramit observes the scene from afar. From the darkness, a group of assassins stealthily approaches the sanctuary. The serpent then warns that an intruder is approaching the location. He says it's probably the Queen's pursuit team that has arrived. With a serious look, she asks what he's going to do about it. Using the cloak, he says he's not sure if they can win. He then questions why they would fight alongside that large creature. Disbelieving, she is shocked to see that he wants to abandon the Guardian. Leaping, he shouts that he's counting on the Great Dramut's help. With wide eyes, the serpent despairs at his sudden request. Seeing the monster, the soldiers scream, and he questions if he should go alone. Running with him, she says that the Queen won't be among the soldiers. He explains that if they get trapped, it will be impossible to escape the sanctuary. He then says that since the Guardian cannot leave, they will go alone. Running, he knows he can use the desert warp gate, but he knows the real problem was still coming for them. Arriving in front of the gate, he knows activation takes time. Seeing the gate, she says they just need to pass through to finally escape. He then confirms, but warns that the gate's activation takes a while. She asks how long, and he replies that it will take half a day. With the Guardian helping them, he knows the enemies will take time to find them. With a serious look, he says he needs to log out to see the real world. He then asks if he can entrust his character's safety to her. With her hand on her sword, she prepares to protect his body. Standing on a parapet, she promises to protect him from enemies. At this, the system initiates the logout process and warns him to be careful. Back in reality, he wakes up in his bed, next to his cell phone. Sitting on the bed, he says he can't get used to returning to his body. Picking up his phone, he prepares to check the news from his world. Seeing no alerts, he realizes no monsters have appeared yet. He then decides he needs to return to reality to inform himself about the future. Suddenly, an unexpected notification appears on his phone screen. Holding the phone, he is surprised to see a message from his ex-girlfriend. The scene shifts to the front of a cafe on a sunny day. Sitting, a woman argues with her boyfriend on a voice call. Elsewhere, two employees observe the scene with surprised looks. Hanging up the phone, she asks him not to contact her anymore. With a look of contempt, she calls him a scumbag and annoying. Remembering her ex, she thinks that despite everything, he used to listen to her. Taking a sip, she regrets not having had more patience with him. Turning to the side, she sees him and calls out, waving her hand. With a smile, he says she's early and asks what she wants. Telling her to get straight to the point, he warns that he needs to leave soon. With a smile, she says that in that aspect, he's still the same as ever. She then says she always liked the fact that he came whenever she called. Looking into his eyes, she says she regretted breaking up. She then asks if he missed her, but he doesn't respond. Not caring, he ignores the question and picks up the menu to order. Saying he said all he needs to, he stands up and announces he's leaving. Desperate, she clings to him, saying she truly missed him. He then asks if her boyfriend knows they are meeting. Her eyes wide, she is shocked that he found out about her relationship. Announcing he's leaving, he stands, but she shouts for him to listen. He then realizes that Randolph's growth is also affecting him. On the street, Her boyfriend calls him a jerk and tells him to stop. Grabbing him, the man calls him a pervert and threatens him with a knife. With a furious shout, he says he'll kill him for ignoring him. Frightened, the girl closes her eyes, expecting the worst to happen in front of her. But before the attack, he easily grabs the knife with his hand. Holding the girl's hair, the man asks what he is. With a cold gaze, he tells the jerk to stop it immediately. Holding the blade, he heard the man scream for him to let go. With a squeeze, he twisted the man's wrist, who cried out in pain. Noticing the change, he realized his real body had become much stronger. Throwing the man to the ground, he asked the girl if she was okay. Thanking him for her life, she said she didn't even know how she could thank him. Seeing her look confused, he stared at her, trying to understand. Remembering the scene, he realized she was the woman he had saved. Saying she reminded him of someone, he turned to leave. But from behind, the man charged forward, screaming, calling him a bastard and arrogant. With a quick dodge, he turned and struck the man. Grabbing the man's head, he prepared to end the confrontation right there. Slamming his face into the ground, he knocked him down with a single blow. Surprised by the scene, she watched him, unable to believe what she had just seen. Kneeling on the ground, he maintained his stance, ready for any new attack. From above, they stood on the sidewalk, next to a car. Just then, a police officer approached and asked him to go to the station. The officer then said both of them needed to come in because of the assault. Holding his head, he said he had no time to waste. She then asked if the officer would take responsibility if something went wrong. Introducing herself, she said she was a reporter and told them to stop bothering him. Threatening a news report, the officers seemed surprised by her identity. Recognizing the reporter, the officers remembered she had saved a child. Yielding to the pressure, the officer said the news crew could come in. With a smile, she thanked him for everything he had done that day. Handing him her card, she said she exclusively covered dimensional warriors. She then explained that this was the name given to those who fought against monsters. Looking at the card, he realized few mentioned the game's name directly. Suddenly, his ex-girlfriend arrived, running, and asked if he was okay. Grabbing his arm, she asked if he got hurt during the fight. Pushing her hand away, he said it was nothing of the sort, and left. Jealous, his ex got annoyed seeing him take out his phone. Saving the contact, the reporter said his name was really cool. With a smile, she invited him for coffee the next day. Unable to believe the scene, his ex watched everything with a perplexed look. Her face full of anger, she couldn't believe he had ignored her. Leaving, the reporter walked down the sidewalk, looking at her phone. Walking down the street, she kept checking her phone notifications. Just then, she received a call and answered, waiting to hear who it was. Asking them to stop calling, she found out she had a new assignment. Crossing the street, she discovered she needed to interview player Gracia. Elsewhere, player Gracia defeated a giant monster with his swords. Flying over the city, he prepared for his next trip to Korea. Back at the gate, several soldiers' bodies were scattered on the ground. Her mouth bleeding, Isabella took a deep breath, tired from the long and tough battle. Amidst the dead, she and Randolph waited for the gate to finish activating. Daggers in hand, she prepared to face the enemies. The soldiers then told her to hand over the slave and return in silence. Calling them fools, she refused to obey the soldiers' order. Shouting to kill the traitor, the soldiers advanced to attack. Amidst the enemies, she remained standing, facing all her adversaries. Lowering her head, she looked exhausted from the long and difficult battle. Suddenly, the gate glowed with a blue light, preparing to activate. With the portal activated, the soldiers were surprised by what was happening. Falling backward, she lost her balance, almost collapsing from exhaustion. At that moment, he appeared and held her, saying she had endured well. With a smile, he said he had finished his communication with the stars. The soldiers' leader then shouted for everyone to execute the traitor. Saying he would fulfill his promise, he prepared to protect her. Clenching his fist, he activated his skill, releasing immense power. With the skill activated, the system informed him he had 41 seconds. Screaming in pain, the soldiers were caught by the explosion of energy and light. With his cloak, he said this was their moment of liberation. Looking at him, she said that was the power of a star seeker. With a smile, he said he wouldn't stop her if she wanted to go back. Looking up, she refused the invitation with a look of determination. With a smile on her lips, she seemed happy with her decision to follow. She then said she would stay with him, and the two entered the portal. With the curse removed, the system initiated the warp to the central continent. Arriving in the city, the system welcomed them to the golden city of Arcana. The notification then warned that Arcana was a city of extreme materialism. On the street, people chatted and traded with gold and other valuable items. In a carriage, a rich man watched the city's movement from the window. Walking through the city, he said the first thing was to get gold to survive. With a smile, she told him not to worry, and showed him a bag of gold. Surprised, he stared at the large bag of coins she was holding. She then said that was enough for them to spend one night. He said that in the desert, 300 coins could buy 10 whole slaves. Seeing that a loaf of bread cost 50 coins, she asked what they would do. Pointing to the side, he said there was money everywhere. With a snap of his fingers, he pointed towards a large casino. Her face flushed. She stared at him, not understanding what he wanted. Standing in front of the casino, he smiled, arms crossed and confident. With a smile, he told her not to worry, as he was a lucky man. In the city of indulgence, there is only one crucial law. In a place where only money matters, gold coins decide everything. At night, the Hudson Casino becomes the center of the entire city. With his arms behind his back, the manager apologizes with a serious expression. He then warns that entry requires a deposit of 10,000 gold. Whispering, she warns that she only has 100 gold coins after buying the clothes. Seeing that they don't have the deposit, the manager asks them to step aside. He then offers an item as collateral for them to enter. Showing the queen's tear, he says that should be enough. Stuttering, the manager is shocked to see such a valuable item. With a smile, he invites them to the Grand Casino's VIP room. She then asks what he gave, and he replies it was the tear. With a smile, he says the item is worth at least 1 million gold. He then says it's just a deposit and he'll get it back. Inside the casino, the roulette wheel spins, deciding the fate of all players. With the ball stopped, the roulette wheel determines the final bet outcome. Seeing his wins, the other players call him the god of gambling. With chips on the table, he's already accumulated 1,400,000. With money on the line, he knows there's no better streak than this. Celebrating, she yells that they're rich and he corrects her. The manager then says he'll pay, but he's banned from the casino. In response, other players start following his bets. With the owner's arrival, the manager seems more relieved by the situation. Surrounded by security, the owner asks him to leave the premises. With a furious look, Isabella prepares for a potential new confrontation. Agreeing, he says he'll leave, but he has one condition first. Refusing the request, the manager orders him to cooperate and leave quietly. With a smile, he says he's not the one who wants to talk. In a room, the boss stares at the queen's tear resting on a cushion. Using the observer's hand, he prepares to display his power. Analyzing the item, he confirms the tear is truly genuine and rare. As an item of the queen's knights, the tear is very difficult to obtain. With a sigh, he says they searched for the item but never found it. An employee then calls him and informs him of his visitor. Surprised, he discovers that the man who left the talisman wants to meet him. With a smile, he realizes the person knew he'd want it. From above, the two sit on sofas, facing each other. Sitting on the sofa, he silently awaits the casino owner's arrival. Entering the room, the owner stares at him, surprised by his common appearance. He then asks what he meant by that, and the answer comes. Taking a sip, he says he was literal and that the boss wanted him. He then asks if the owner doesn't need the talisman he left. With a smile, the owner says he heard about his collecting hobby. Taking a sip of coffee, he says he doesn't mind selling the item. The boss then offers 2 million gold, which seems quite generous. Shocked, she can't believe he offered 2 million for a talisman. With his arms crossed, he says the price is 20 million gold. The owner says that's enough to buy an entire mansion. He then says it might not be worth it for him, but it is for the owner. Holding the cup, he says it wouldn't be a hobby item, of course. With a smile, he says the item is essential for joining the council. Speechless, the casino owner just stares at him with a serious look. He then explains that the item is necessary to meet the minimum requirements. With a surprised look, the owner is shocked to hear his fiancée's name. With a serious look, he confirms he knows about the noble Serengeti. With a smile, she was the Viscount's only daughter and a noble. Called the White Knight, she joined the expedition to save Arcane. To save him, she sacrificed her legs to the Demon King in battle. At the time, he thought her actions were just a random event, but after his character died, he started to understand the situation better. Sitting in the bathtub, he realized that NPCs could be players. Then, he remembers the words Serengeti told him during the expedition. After receiving the necklace, he didn't understand what it was. With a smile, he wonders if that was part of the original setup. He then remembers that, in the story, the character didn't even have a fiancé. At that, he understands that someone influenced an NPC to accept a new story. The casino owner wonders how he knew the secret he hadn't revealed. Sitting at the table, he understands he needs to get as much information as possible. Raising a finger, he says he didn't know, but he heard about it. He then says the star told him and that it became a saint. With a smile, he says he can help him get what he wants. He then says the star will decide whether to help him or not, but he warns that everything must be true, as the star favors truth. Surprised, the casino owner wonders about telling his life story. With a serious look, he knows he might be a disguised hunter. Hunters are NPCs who hunt down and execute players they find. Because of this, most players prefer to keep their identities a secret, but he believed Hudson would accept, as Serengeti was more than an NPC. Looking at the portrait, Serengeti's image appears inside the locket. With a sigh, the owner agrees and says he will tell his story. He then begins, saying he needs to start with his fiance's story. Shocked, he doesn't understand why he spoke of 8 heroes in the expedition. The owner then confirms that Wilhelm led the expedition with 8 other heroes. With a surprised look, he discovers the expedition failed due to betrayal. He then asks if the owner knows who the famous 8 heroes are. One of the heroes was Gracia, the strongest after Wilhelm himself. In the newspaper, the news asks who the man riding the monster was. Thanking his assistant, Gracia prepares to meet the Korean reporter. His assistant questions him, saying the government wants him to stay. Looking at the news, he says he needs to confirm something about that man. With a smile, he says it might be the friend he had been searching for. Back in the room, he continues listening to the story carefully. In a sunny city, buildings rose under the clear blue sky. Sitting down to eat, he seemed annoyed by his current situation. She asked if the meat wasn't to his liking, and he denied it. He then remembered spending all night listening to the owner's story. Looking at the menu, he asked if the place wasn't too expensive. With a smile, she said it was nothing compared to what he had done. Surprised, he stared at her, unsure what to say about the compliment. Suddenly, he noticed a familiar woman sitting in the back booth. Looking back, he saw his ex-girlfriend with her new boyfriend. Recalling their conversation, he remembered the photos she hadn't deleted. Her face in shock, she remembered her boyfriend's name. Saying he didn't care, he stated he no longer had any relationship with her. Eating a piece of meat, he continued to ignore their presence. The boyfriend then approached and asked if he had followed her there. With an angry look, he accused him of being a blatant stalker. From above, the argument began to draw everyone's attention. Remembering the breakup, he told the boyfriend to stop being such a loser. With a smile, his ex-girlfriend seemed satisfied with the situation. Pointing a finger, he threatened to kill him if he came near her again. Standing up, the reporter asked by what right he spoke that way. She said she had reserved the restaurant and that he was being disrespectful. Throwing money on the table, he said he'd pay double and told them to leave. Covering her face, the crumpled money rained down on the reporter in the restaurant. With a blow, she struck the man, breaking his glasses in the process. With a serious face, she called him a bastard and crazy for what he had done. Annoyed, he said she hit first and became enraged. With a raised hand, he told her to prepare for a strike. Widening her eyes, she closed them, bracing for the slap. But instead, he attacked the man, landing a blow. With a cold gaze, he said that was enough and that the man had messed up. With glowing eyes, the man called him a bastard and became enraged. Hand on his face, he couldn't believe he'd been hit in front of her. Knocking him down, he held him to the ground, saying he'd already told him to stop. He then wondered why that guy was so strong and resilient. Desperate, his ex-girlfriend screamed, telling him to get up off the floor immediately. Holding his head, he suggested they finish their conversation outside. With a look of hatred, the man grew angry at being shamed in front of everyone. Pulling something from his pocket, he said the protagonist had messed with the wrong person. The object then glowed, and a strong light enveloped the entire restaurant. Suddenly, a flash of light hit him directly, throwing him backward. Seeing the light, he wondered what it was and what had happened. Shocked, the restaurant customers wondered what it was. With a strike, he threw him far away, revealing his warrior form. His face filled with rage, he threatened him, telling him to speak again. He then attacked, landing a powerful blow to his enemy's chest. From above, both fell to the ground after exchanging blows. Lying on the ground, he realized the man was also a Pangea player. He then wondered why the man seemed so little affected. Activating his trait, the man stood up and revealed himself to be a lancer. He then realized the man had a class, but was only level 4. The level bar showed that experience needed to level up increased with each level. With more talents, a character became stronger but leveled up slower. And of course, the man was on the side with fewer talents to level up. This was because, despite his low level, he had never fought even once. After surviving by luck, he had acquired the Lancer class. With the logout reward, he never returned to the game. He understood that not everyone had the same traits, and adaptation was difficult. His ex-girlfriend pulled her boyfriend away, saying the mood was ruined. She then told the protagonist never to approach her again, leaving him alone. Lying on the ground, he realized the other player wouldn't live much longer. Running to him, the reporter asked if he was okay after the fight. Annoyed, she said to report it, but he told her to let it go. His eyes gleaming, he said it was nothing, and that they should eat. Suddenly a strong earthquake began, shaking the entire restaurant and street. Feeling the vibration, he knew exactly what that sensation meant. Then, the restaurant floor began to crack and shatter completely. A giant monster emerged from the ground and attacked the people in the restaurant. Covering her mouth, he told her to wait and not make a sound. Throughout the restaurant, people ran desperately, trying to escape the massive creature. Observing the monster, he realized the creature wasn't attacking people. He then explained that the monster only ate bodies and didn't attack first. In the distance, The player he had fought earlier was still in the restaurant. Shouting, his ex-girlfriend begged her boyfriend to do something and help. With his spear glowing, he prepared to attack the giant creature. Shouting, he told the idiot not to attack, but it was already too late. He then leapt and attacked the monster with his spear in a single blow. His body wounded, he wondered if he had defeated it with one strike. His hands glowing, he began to believe he was stronger. Running, he yelled that he would kill every damn monster he found. Celebrating, people recognized him as a true dimensional warrior. With a sneer, he realized he hadn't needed to be afraid. With a serious look, he told her to get as far away as possible. He then told her to move away from the direction the idiot was in. Suddenly, a red mist enveloped the entire restaurant and street. His vision blocked. He couldn't see anything in front of him. Amidst the mist, a giant, dark hand emerged from the shadows. Surprised, the hand covered his eyes and he wondered what it was. Amidst the darkness, a glowing red eye appeared before him. A mysterious, dark voice asked who was responsible for this. With an aura of fury, it asked who had killed all its children. With its hand on his head, the creature enveloped him in its energy. Whispering, the creature commanded everyone in that place to die immediately. Coughing, the man asked what was suddenly happening. Looking around, he realized he couldn't see anything due to the mist. Surprised, the man saw his spear held suspended in mid-air. With a glowing eye, the creature prepared to attack its target. The system then warned that the hallucination was activated by the monster's blood. Suddenly, the man was attacked by an unknown force and cried out in pain. Blood gushed everywhere, covering the floor with the liquid. Amidst the blood, the fallen bodies of everyone in the restaurant appeared. With red eyes, he despaired, not understanding what had happened. Looking at the man, the creature said he shouldn't have interfered. With his sword in hand, he ordered the creature to come out of hiding. The creature then opened its mouth, revealing its teeth and a smile. With a laugh, the creature revealed itself and stared at him. With a loud laugh, the creature stared at him with its glowing red eyes. Saying he looked delicious, the monster pointed a finger at him. With a serious look, he prepared to face the powerful creature. Screaming desperately, the reporter called out to him, not knowing what to do. Amidst the mist, she kept screaming, searching for him in the dark. Alone, she called out to him, hoping for an answer that wouldn't come. Dodging attacks, he continued to fight the creature with his sword. He then thought he only managed to transform because of the mist. His eyes wide, he knew the fight would be much harder. He knew that without knowing the patterns, he would have already been ground meat. The monster then wondered how he managed to dodge every blow. He knew his enemy was moving as if he knew his attacks. With a furious expression, he continued to dodge every blow. The monster then said it was useless and he wouldn't succeed. Leaping into the air, he prepared to strike the monster with a blow. With glowing eyes, he predicted the monster's next evasion pattern. Next, the creature released a large blast of blood to attack him. With his hand on his sword, he prepared to dodge the attack. Dodging the blood, he knew touching it caused a status effect. The blood then spread, covering the floor with the red liquid. From the ground, a sharp stake emerged, and he narrowly dodged the strike. With a furious look, he prepared to continue the difficult battle. Perched on a tentacle, he watched the creature move from afar. Impressed, the monster praised his marvelous evasion and dodging skill. With a smile, the monster said it was useless if he didn't attack. He then told the monster not to worry about his attacks. With the talisman in hand, he promised he would hit it soon. Equipping the boots, the system warned his stats were too low for them. Next, he equipped the armor and helmet from his new set. With the new equipment, he prepared to attack with full power. With the armor, he regretted having to use the tear he had promised. The epic boots reduced the status requirement for use by 20%. Using swiftness, he advanced, promising to keep his word. Dodging the tail, he prepared to continue the attack with his sword. With focused eyes, he concentrated on the creature's next move. Leaping back, he dodged another attack and landed on the ground. His foot hitting the ground, he cracked the floor, preparing for a counterattack. Advancing, he spun in the air, enveloped in a glowing golden light. With a swift motion, he prepared to hit the monster with everything he had. He then attacked, landing a precise blow on the creature's eye. Enraged, the monster called him a wretch and prepared to attack. From its body, several sharp spikes emerged, ready to strike. With his sword, he cut the spikes with several quick and precise blows. Holding his sword, he continued to cut the approaching spikes. With a focused gaze, he concentrated, ready for the next attack. Struck, he was thrown far back by the giant monster's attack. With the impact, he was flung and hit the wall hard. Gritting his teeth, he stood up, feeling the pain of the blow throughout his body. With his sword in hand, he prepared to continue fighting bravely. The system then warned that the armor set option had been activated. With the new ability, he gained wings and prepared for the attack. The monster then said he still had more tricks up his sleeve. With a scream, the creature released a blood tornado to attack him. With focused eyes, he knew that was the last attack pattern. He then braced himself, knowing he needed to withstand the monster's final attack. Amidst the tornado, he precisely dodged the blood attacks. The monster then said he wouldn't be able to dodge that attack. With a furious roar, the creature called him a rat and attacked. Inside the tornado, he was surrounded by immense dark red energy. Then, the system activated the synergy effect of his armor and boots. Shocked, the monster couldn't believe he blocked the mist with wind. Wearing his armor, he took a deep breath, recovering from the long, hard battle. After using all its patterns, the monster entered a state of confusion. With a quick attack, he advanced, knowing this was his only chance. Desperate, the monster yelled for him to wait, but it was already too late. With a single blow, he pierced the monster's head with his sword. Holding the sword, he pushed it in further, finishing the blow with force. With his bloodied helmet, he said he'd shove the sword between its eyes. The system displayed, confirming the monster's elimination and the time for its treatment. Surprised, the young woman asked if it was all over, not understanding the situation. Turning, she observed the figure in red armor and a white cape. Disguised, the hood hid part of the mysterious person's face. Recalling the past, the young woman saw that person saving her from a monster. Running after him, she asked him to wait, wondering if he remembered her. With a warning, he said that Miss Hana was safe, as his cape activated. Reaching out, she tried to speak, but he suddenly vanished. Startled, the young woman exclaimed something, still not comprehending what had happened. Then, amidst the destruction, she stood still, alone and somewhat lost. Just then, a shoe stepped on the ground, signaling someone's arrival. Turning, she heard her name called, noticing a new presence. Arriving with a smile, he announced he'd found her after they'd been separated in the chaos. Worried, he asked if she was hurt. She replied that yes, she was fine. Looking around, her eyes expressed a silent concern. He said he was glad she was safe, commenting that he hadn't expected any of it. Concerned, the young woman asked if he was hurt while he looked at his finger. He replied it was just monster blood, but then he noticed the blood on his fingernails. Finding it odd, she commented that his clothes were clean, only his fingernails bled. As she walked, she observed his calm demeanor and asked if he knew about the monster. After a moment of thought, he remained silent before answering her question. He claimed he spoke without thinking, saying he was quite afraid of such things. In shock, the young woman found everything highly suspicious. Staring at him seriously. Suspicious, she connected his excuse to the disappearance of the man who had saved her. The next day, the sun shone brightly in a sky filled with many clouds. A few days later, another dimensional war occurred near a building. Warriors warned that the attacks were likely to continue, requesting government cooperation. With empty streets, many citizens avoided going out due to the pervasive anxiety. On television, a news report showed indignation at the government's response. At a meeting, several people gathered to discuss the current situation. One man commented that during the first invasion, everything was calm, but now it was chaos. Another man stated that the last invasion only felt real to those who experienced it, and attacks made no sense. Seeing a young woman on her phone, he remarked that the government had tried to maintain normalcy, as it seemed illogical at the time. However, he emphasized that everyone realized these invasions could happen again. A leader announced it was the right time to launch the Player Alliance Heroes. He stated that other alliances thought similarly, so they needed to recruit talent quickly. Analyzing the image of a sword, he said it was hard to tell, but the man might be Randolph. Then, one of the men questioned how someone at level 4 or 5 could be wearing such expensive shoes. Another replied that he must have used some talisman, but he was someone necessary for them. The leader added that he appeared after Phantom vanished, making Randolph a possibility. Emphatically, the leader said they couldn't trust other alliances and needed to recruit him. With a serious look, he concluded that this was to stop the next rift from appearing. The scene shifted as one man approached another, seeming impatient. Shocked, one of them shouted, asking if he had used the Fairy Queen's tears. Confirming, the annoyed man asked why he hadn't given him the item. Responding irritably, he said he promised to help, not to give away the Queen's tears. He explained he didn't need a talisman to achieve his goal and had gotten rid of the item to avoid creating false hope. The suspicious man asked if there was another way, and the other perceived his distrust. Smiling, he invited the man to follow him, promising to make him believe. With that, the three walked through a dark place towards an unknown destination. With the path cleared, the passage to the sewer dungeon was revealed. Walking, he explained that to dispel the distrust, he needed to create a waypoint in Arcana. Showing a teleportation book, he said it was convenient, but increasing the exploration rate was annoying. Then, the woman asked if he was going to explore the dungeon with just the three of them, calling it dangerous. The man shouted that the boss monster, the monster rat, required 6 level 8 players. As he spoke, Randolph took a step forward, his shoes prominent. He stated he knew the danger, but the other's red eyes showed concern. Emerging with spikes, the mutant sewer rat monster appeared, requiring 6 players. The rat's eye glowed red, indicating that the battle was about to begin. The monster's giant paw attacked, striking the ground forcefully. A green explosion spread, indicating the power of the launched attack. Quickly, the three dodged as the impact of the blow expanded. Worried, the man explained that the rat attacked quickly. The strategy was to corner it with 6 people. Observing the red eye, he questioned the recklessness of entering without preparation. Suddenly, Randolph called Isabella into action. Notified of the direction, she advanced without delay. His only reaction was to see the girl approaching too fast. Standing still, Randolph asserted that speed didn't matter when you knew the pattern. This feat was only possible because Isabella's combat skills were on a different level. Shocked, the mustached man watched the fight, amazed by the situation. Next, he called Hudson, who seemed scared by everything happening. Facing him, Randolph promised to fulfill his word, asking him not to doubt. He concluded that if he said it worked, then it simply worked. Impressed, Hudson stared at him with wide eyes, digesting his words. A man reports to the captain. No trace on the cameras. No one knew a thing. Confused, the captain likens the situation to being bewitched by a ghost. Lost in thought, the captain refuses to visit a man who seemed to have lost his mind. A patient without arms is shown, revealing he went mad from the trauma of his loss. A close-up of the man's face showed his immense despair. As they walk, they consider Kim Ha-na. One suggests waiting for her at the station entrance. One warns not to provoke her, as Gracia, the strongest player, is in Korea. It's revealed that Gracia will conduct an exclusive one-on-one interview with Kim Ha-na. Several individuals take photos. With a serious look, the blonde introduces himself as Gracia. Reporter Kim Ha-na then introduces herself, pleased to meet him. One asks if she's fallen in love, but the other tells him not to cause trouble. Thoughtfully, the captain wonders why Gracia would interview a mere reporter. He quickly realizes that irritating him could shatter their alliance, highlighting the imminent danger. Lying on the blood-stained ground, the man asks if it's truly over. Wounded, the man questions what's happening, as fighting between players is forbidden. Annoyed, the other asks who decided that, since Gracia ordered them to prepare for the invasion. Enraged, he shouts that if Gracia discovers this, it will be their end. The attacker sneers, telling him to beg Gracia for salvation as the sword pierces him. In a moment of suspense, a shadowy silhouette rises from the ground. The cloaked figure is revealed as a ranking updates. The man concludes Randolph is Phantom, as the accumulated points explain everything. He then deduces Phantom is headed for the main challenge, vowing to find him soon. Determined, he swears he will kill Phantom with his own hands. As the scene changes, the sun shines brightly in a clear, vast sky. An enormous, multi-headed creature emerges, causing a massive impact. A cloud of dust envelops the creature, with 2 small figures standing before it. Smiling, Randolph says he got lucky. His only goal was to register the dungeon. Finally, the defeated monster lies on the ground, observed by the 3 victors. Proudly, Randolph holds a glowing core, newly acquired from the battle. It's the mutant rat core, a material for evolving creatures or crafting equipment. He thinks he acquired the material to evolve Hydreigon, speeding things up a bit. After the battle, he asks if Hudson took care of the casino, and Hudson confirms it. Hudson laments the casino's loss, but says the sacrifice is worth it for the alliance with Serengeti. He decides to trust and follow the Saint, as no one would leave a casino unguarded there. It's revealed that Isabella, who hunted the monster alone, is incredible and seems to see everything. He then considers Randolph an extraordinary man, a chance he cannot miss. He replies, "That's right," confirming his thoughts. With a smile, Randolph assures her she won't have to worry about money anymore. Hudson asks where they're headed now, as he doesn't recall hearing it. Smiling, Randolph speaks of the masterpiece that will fulfill her wish. He reveals it's the spiritual tower, where main quest 3 begins. The scene shifts to a mysterious forest, with tall trees and sunlight filtering through. Admiringly, Hudson asks if this is the place, but to him, it just looks like an ordinary forest. Randolph, serious, states that it's no ordinary forest, leaving the other confused. Looking up, he says it's the entrance to the spiritual tower, where the spiritual tree grows. He explains that the spiritual tree is where a spirit was born, capable of opening a path to the spiritual realm. Walking, he explains, they must enter this path to reach the spiritual tower. Next, he thoughtfully touches the tree trunk. The tree cracks, and he reveals it died long ago, shocking the others. With the forest dying, he asks if it's been a long time since any spirit was born there. He then draws his sword, saying it's not the best method, but he has no other choice. Worried, the man calls out, asking what he intends to do with the sword. Sword in hand, he grips it firmly as the blade gleams. Aiming, he attacks with the sword, focusing all his strength into the strike. Startled, the man watches as the woman reacts to the unexpected action. With a powerful blow, the sword slices through the tree, cutting it in half. The tree falls with a thud, and the cracked stump is visible, leaving the others stunned. Surprised, Hudson asks if he can just cut down the tree like that, but Randolph doesn't respond. Frightened, Hudson recalls that the tree was the entrance to the spiritual tower, questioning him. Someone launches something at high speed. A trail of intense light is visible. Next, the woman deflects the attack, shielding Hudson. The woman manages to protect herself further, but is still struck. A surprised Archer comments that she blocked the blow, and it wasn't bad. Then, a gray-skinned man, the level 9 Great Dryad, emerges. Shocked, they couldn't believe it was a Great Dryad. There was no escape. The Dryad says he thought they were just lost travelers, so he let them pass. Enraged, the Dryad accuses the humans of cutting down the spiritual tree. Several more appear, Forest Guardian, level 7 Dryads. Observing, the woman comments that there are at least 50 or more creatures. She thinks that if they all attack, there's no hope, and she must evacuate the saint. Randolph steps forward, stating that he cut the tree, not the others. The Dryad, furious, calls Randolph insane, saying he only showed himself because of the cut. Calmly, Randolph asks him to come down, as he wants to discuss something serious. Refusing, the Dryad visibly prepares to shoot an arrow. Irritated, Randolph asks if he'll simply watch the forest die, trying to convince him. In shock, the Dryad's eyes widen, surprised by the unexpected question. Pointing his sword forward, Randolph asserts he will revive the dying forest. He reminds the Dryad that no spirit has been born there, and the entire forest will soon die. He then proposes that the Dryad open the spiritual tower's door, and he will give a spirit to the forest. Laughing, the Dryad scoffs, asking if an inferior being like him can enter the Tower of the Chosen. The Dryad explains it would be impossible, requiring talent, numerous quests, and rare opportunities. Thoughtfully, he adds that few have entered, and entering at Randolph's level is impossible for a common player. Randolph orders him to open the door, stating he will save the forest by activating his nature affinity. The Dryad, Sirius, reiterated his question, asking if he would truly save the forest. Enraged, the other Dryads shouted, "Lies!" promising to kill him and destroy the spirit tree. Then, they all clamored to kill them, demanding that they be shot. The Dryad stared at them in silence, as the archer also cried out, "Kill them!" A raised hand signaled for the attack to stop. Startled, the other Dryads exchanged confused glances, not understanding the command. The Dryad warned Randolph to uphold his promise, gazing at him with seriousness. Confidently, Randolph affirmed he always kept his word and would bring a spirit back. The Dryad stated he didn't expect success, planning to kill Randolph if he failed. The Dryad then called for them to follow him, leading the way with the others trailing behind. The scene shifted to a sun-drenched clearing amidst the trees. They approached a pile of stones which emanated a brilliant light. The Dryad explained that with the forest dying, the only way to open the gate was by using the corpse of the stone spirit. He warned that failure would mean becoming fertilizer for the forest, to which Randolph asked what would happen if he succeeded. With a serious gaze, the Dryad replied that he would grant Randolph a fair reward. Smiling, Randolph read the mission: return the spirit to the forest, musing that the battle would be dramatic. The Dryad used his ability to open the portal. With an intense glow, he announced that the portal would open. An explosion of golden light spread, transforming the surrounding environment. Several silhouettes emerged within the light. Everyone felt the intense light on their faces. A portal to the Tower of Spirits was created, and only those with permission could enter. Looking around, Hudson asked where they were, surprised by the location. Randolph explained they were inside the portal, requiring permission to enter the tower itself. Confused, the man asked who would grant permission, then cried out at something unexpected. A small golden spirit with a flame atop its head floated in the air. The man asked if they should catch it, finding it cute. Observing the spirit, Randolph stared at it, assessing the situation. The golden spirit seemed to ponder something, indicating a moment of reflection. With glowing green eyes, Randolph activated his druidic affinity, feeling the tower's energy. The spirit asked if they were friends, and Randolph replied that yes, they were trustworthy. The spirit decided to allow their entry, but with one condition. In shock, the three realized they needed to pass through the tower individually. Isabella announced she would return soon as she prepared for her entry. With a shout, the man exclaimed that his body was disappearing, visibly frightened. The spirit explained that time flowed differently there, so he could ascend without worry. Wishing them luck, it vanished into the light, among the shimmering glows. Main Mission 3 was to climb the tower, and the reward would vary based on performance. Then, a dark and imposing door materialized, emanating a purple aura. Randolph observed the door, commenting that the Tower of Spirits felt familiar. However, he wondered what kind of gate this was, intrigued by its peculiar form. To enter the tower, one had to pass through a gate, which changed according to elemental affinity. Hudson, with water affinity, had faced the Gate of Water, while Isabella encountered the Gate of Wind. Randolph mused he had never seen a portal of this element before, wondering if it was because he possessed all affinities. With glowing eyes, the face on the purple gate stared at Randolph with intensity. Observing the gate, he realized it possessed affinity with all elements, including those that couldn't naturally coexist. Curious, he first thought it was the element of the void, but then understood it was more than that. It was chaos. The gate's name was Gate of Chaos. An array of purple light struck him. A voice warned that he had opened a gate never before seen, urging caution. It cautioned that if he were devoured by chaos, he would never return, even as he walked forward with firm resolve. As he walked through the corridors, Randolph pondered the Gate of Chaos, deep in reflection. In a flashback, he recalled having played Pangenius for 5 years without fail. As the most seasoned player, he knew the game better than anyone, yet mysteries still remained. The game had an insane difficulty, but it always challenged him to push his limits. He smiled, stating that was precisely why he loved the game, this mysterious Pangenius. Gripping his sword, he remembered that the Gate of Chaos had been opened for the very first time. With a surge of determination, he affirmed that he would be the first to complete this challenge as well. A man's white hair billowed in the winds. Wilhelm, the white-haired man, appeared with a penetrating gaze. Shocked, Randolph recognized Wilhelm and wondered why he was the trial. Wilhelm attacked with his sword, creating an impact of golden light. Randolph swiftly dodged the blow, feeling the force of the attack. He coughed up blood as Wilhelm attacked him again. Randolph considered Wilhelm's sudden appearance, but the critical thing was to fight against the number one. He then needed to fight and win, accepting the imposed challenge. In shock, he prepared to fight, seeing his enemy as something unbeatable. Wilhelm, the swordsman, was prepared for combat, enveloped in a dark aura. Enraged, Randolph yelled that Pangenius was a crazy game, even as he was struck. Equipping new armor and a helmet, he also put on Hermes' boots. Taking a hit, Randolph realized the wound's limited depth. Observing his opponent, he analyzed the adversary's physical characteristics. Then, armor and shoe options activated, granting new abilities. Fighting Wilhelm up close, Randolph assessed their physical resemblance. Wilhelm was thrown far, flying through the air after a direct impact. Randolph's attack created a violent impact on the battlefield. Taking a closer look, he kept a determined gaze on the fight. The protagonist leaped with his sword, delivering a powerful blow to Wilhelm. Wilhelm quickly retreated, dodging to avoid another attack. Counter-attacking, he landed a precise kick to his face. Pondering the situation, he remained attentive to his opponent's movements. Wilhelm then asked if he had come in search of past glory. Advancing against him, he declared that was impossible. Making a gesture with his hand, he prepared for his next move. The protagonist struck Wilhelm, questioning what he meant by that. Wilhelm, with a furious gaze, reflected the battle's intensity. Retaliating with another punch, Randolph called his adversary an imposter. Fallen to the ground, Wilhelm was wounded and bleeding heavily. Looking at his fallen rival, he maintained a victor's stance. Using an HP potion, Randolph sought to recover quickly. Drinking the potion, he regained his strength and energized himself for the fight. As he continued to drink, the potion took effect, increasing his vitality. Satisfied, he commented that he bought many potions with money from the Hudson Casino. Wilhelm observed Randolph with an expression of surprise and determination. Reflecting on the purchase, he stated he would regret it if he didn't have the potions. Changing scenes, we see a tall building under the strong sun. With that, the interview concluded, finishing the questions and answers. The interviewer said he must be tired after coming all this way. In gratitude, she cordially addressed Mr. Gracia. Responding humbly, Gracia said it was nothing, and he had a confidential question. The interviewer asked if the question was for her, confirming it was simple. She then showed an article about the man who assembles monsters, written by Kim Hana. Gracia asked her to tell him everything she knew about this man, in detail. The scene changed. Bodies lay on the ground, indicating a recent battle. In the center of the room, Randolph was surrounded by defeated enemies. Even exhausted, he remained standing. He saw, satisfied, that he had fought over 100 enemies. He knew he only survived because he had many healing potions. Throwing the vial away, he just wanted to receive the clean environment message. Walking a bit further, he approached Wilhelm's body. He soon noticed that everyone's bodies were disappearing. Becoming concerned, a creature with teeth appeared above his head. Something called Chaos appeared, saying it liked him, unsure if he was human or a druid. Addressing the spirit of Chaos, he questioned if he had finally cleared the tower. Laughing maliciously, Chaos inquired if he had really cleared it. Amidst laughter, the small chaotic spirits mocked Randolph. Amazed, he heard the spirits tell him not to be ridiculous. doubting his ability. Walking a bit, he heard that the tower's true challenges hadn't even begun. Observing the barrier of light, he understood that the real test was yet to come. Chaos provoked him, asking if he could clear the tower, as he hadn't faced real enemies. Behind the barrier, thousands of enemies just like those he had faced awaited him. Chaos asserted that no one would ever be able to clear that tower. Walking forward, Chaos questioned where he was going, offering a contract of power. Moving forward, he heard a proposal for a contract to gain equipment or a secret skill. Seeing the red sphere, it was clear the tower granted rewards based on the chosen trial. By winning the trial of wind, he could obtain a wind spirit egg and make a contract. Upon entering the chaos trial, he expected to receive a chaos spirit egg as a reward. He considered spirit eggs rare, especially the chaos one, a top reward, even though the spirits were already clamoring for contracts. So, he thought, what could be behind that door? Perhaps an even greater reward than a chaos egg? Advancing into the light, he heard that he had made a foolish decision and someone would pay for it. They reminded him that thousands of chaos illusions existed behind the door, and he wouldn't fight all of them. It would be difficult, as he had already used all his potions, but he had memorized their attack patterns. Surprised, he saw the figures and declared he no longer needed potions or anything similar. Repeating the patterns seen thousands of times, he warned that he would not be afraid to clear the tower. The shadowy creature seemed confused as he prepared for action. A smile emerged from the darkness, saying it didn't expect such a challenge for such a ridiculous reason. A strong light burst from the ground as the voice said it liked fools like that. Suddenly, the young man was in a golden place full of stars. A truly chaotic scene. Looking around, he asked himself, where the hell am I now? Completing the main quest, he saw a message that he had reached the top of the tower. Appearing, the glowing creature congratulated the fool for ascending the tower, and his friends were alive. Hearing this, he just remained silent, absorbing everything that had just happened. He then questioned if all that talk about the real trial having begun was pure lies. Pointing his weapon, he realized these beings were good at lying, as spirits of chaos love to deceive. Then he observed the glowing door, understanding the difference between chaos minds and others. Receiving the proposal, he extended his hand, as the creature said a reward awaited him there. His hand was then enveloped by energy, confirming that the Tower of Chaos was unleashed. He thought that if the trial ended like this, without secrets, the Chaos Egg would be the main reward. Grabbing the sphere, he received confirmation of having obtained the long-awaited Chaos Spirit Egg. Suddenly, his eyes widened, as if something unexpected was happening before him. Then, he saw something dark emerging from his hand, suggesting a new and strange energy. Floating with feathers, they revealed a hidden characteristic, indicating something celestial emerging there. Thus, he received another notification, informing him he had gained a celestial spirit egg. Holding the sphere of luminous feathers, the young man seemed surprised by the new and mysterious acquisition. Without understanding, his eyes showed confusion as he questioned what was happening at that moment. Details of the celestial egg emerged. It was an unknown egg of the realm, one that only celestials could hatch. The realm's race was called Celestial, and possessing the egg meant he was one of them. He wondered if this was linked to his hidden trait, or if it was just a name, perhaps connected to the celestial race. He asked the other figure if they knew anything, and received the answer that it was no ordinary egg. Even so, the Spirit King took an interest in the egg, surprising the young man with the news. He considered the Spirit King a powerful being, the creator of Pangea. This meant the egg had incredible value. Curious, he stored the egg in his inventory, deciding to learn more about it after it hatched. Notifications popped up, announcing he had completed the tower. Many constellations increased his rewards. Gazing at the alerts, he thought of the constellations from the Temple of 100 Stars. He was notified that a constellation had taken an interest in Dramut's sanctuary, also boosting his rewards. Surprised, he hadn't expected these 5 arrogant and haughty beings to show so much interest. He knew the temple's constellations were important in Pangea. They could give quests or increase rewards. According to the game, they loved stories, so they enjoyed the proof of chaos he had demonstrated. As a result, the reward level was incredibly high, all thanks to the constellation's intervention. He could choose 2 rewards out of 20, something far beyond his imagination. Shortly after, Isabella and Hudson appeared, having also successfully cleared the tower. Isabella received a wind spirit egg, while Hudson got a water spirit egg. The number of eggs was random, but luckily, Isabella got 2, promising one to the Dryads. With the promise to hatch the wind spirit and release it into the forest, the Dryad looked serious. The Dryad's expression remained unchanged, awaiting the fulfillment of the promise. Thus, Bazrock Forest could revive, regaining the life it had lost. In gratitude, the Dryads offered them the Mandragora, an elixir made from ancient forest herbs. Upon receiving the elixir, the others seemed surprised, unsure of what it actually was. They gave the mandragora to Isabella, who had given them the egg, and she would become even stronger. Many messages popped up, updating the main ranking and showing rewards for completed missions. Elsewhere, an enormous creature pulled their carriage. Randolph received information about Guardian Wall Level 11, a protective ability that lasted 30 seconds. Relieved, he realized the privilege was the Guardian Wall, which put him completely at ease. It was explained that while logged into Pangea, the Guardian Wall protected Park Hyun-mayong in the real world. 72 hours remained on the scale fragment, but he thought more time would be even better. Calling Randolph, Hudson began the conversation, appearing serious. Thanking him for the gift, he said he would hatch the egg soon, as it would solve his problem. He agreed, saying the path would be easier with the spirit's help, and he would buy an incubator. Invited for a stop, Randolph received the reply that he would be accompanied without issue. Smiling contentedly, Randolph thanked him for the company, continuing their journey. Arriving in the city, they observed rooftops and buildings, the strong sun illuminating the place. Pointing, Hudson questioned the location, following Randolph through the busy streets. Shocked, Hudson realized that was their destination as he looked at the city's main street. Shouting in despair, Hudson stopped, but Randolph asked for silence, piquing Isabella's curiosity. Asking the reason for his despair, Isabella heard they were going to Knight's Garden, the Marquise's territory. Revealing the information, he explained that Hudson's fiancée was there, sending him into a panic. Questioning the reason for the visit, Hudson said he couldn't propose to Serengeti yet. Explaining the situation, Randolph revealed he had a request for Serengeti. Looking down the abandoned street, he saw several people collapsed. A desolate scene ahead. Following the street, they walked in pursuit of their objectives. Gathered together, they observed an imposing monument in the square, beneath a clear sky. Noticing the crowd, they commented that it seemed like a memorial service was taking place there. They asked if he recognized any names engraved on the stone, and he denied knowing anyone. However, he affirmed that he knew the reason for those people's deaths. 500 names were on the gravestone. All were knights who had followed him on the great expedition. He witnessed the sorrow of others, finding it unsurprising that he didn't remember their names. To him, they were just unimportant NPCs, mere elements of the game's scenery. He faced the truth, admitting they were only a part of that game universe. On her knees, a woman cried out for Wilhelm, demanding her son's return. Another woman questioned Xian, saying he promised to come back and not worry anyone. Walking towards the gravestone, he heard Isabella's question about what he was doing, while the others cried. A woman's face twisted in despair, shouting an endless question. With tears in her eyes, the woman lamented, expressing her deep pain. But suddenly, a stroke hit, and she began to fall slowly. Arriving quickly, he managed to catch the elderly woman before she hit the ground. Concerned, Randolph held the woman, while others warned that Grandma May had fainted. Lifting his head, he asked Isabella if she was okay, referring to his companion. Then, he carried the woman, deciding to take her to the first aid station. Arriving at the Goddess Church station, he observed a man among all the injured. Hudson commented that there were many patients, but he felt the problem was different. The young man realized the aid station was understaffed, despite being an important city. Hudson commented that it seemed like a management issue while speaking with the siblings. Smiling, the churchman asked if they were the outsiders who brought Sister May. Looking at the woman, he said they were very kind for bringing her, even if it wasn't necessary. Agreeing, Hudson confirmed the man's words with a nod. He then quickly asked if anything was wrong, observing the churchman's expression. The man requested donations to maintain the station, asking for 50 gold coins to help. Randolph then questioned if they were charging medical fees, which would be prohibited. The temple man spoke about the gold coins and questioned if a civilian's salary was fair. With a serious look, the man replied that they had no other choice, creating a tense atmosphere. Noticing the situation, he asked if Father Andrew had allowed donations for the station. He crossed his arms, saying it made no sense, as Father Andrew would never do something like that. Then, the image of Father Andrew appeared, a priest of the goddess church who served the twin goddesses. It was explained that he was an NPC who would give an honor quest to specific classes, a devout and wise man. Perplexed, Randolph questioned if Father Andrew was secretly asking for donations. Analyzing the city, he saw collapsing buildings, homeless residents, and a poorly maintained aid station. With the city in decline, he wondered what had happened to this once prosperous place. Elsewhere, bottles of alcohol were seen on a table, suggesting a scene of excessive consumption. A man pleaded with the Lord, saying he had already drunk too much, trying to stop him. Angrily, the Lord smashed a glass, yelling at the man to stop bothering him. Enraged, the Lord told the man to shut up, continuing to drink without a care. Requesting more drink, the Lord revealed himself to be Marquis Weiser, the leader of Knight's Garden. Randolph ends up asking to speak with Father Andrew. The cloaked man replied that he couldn't help, but he was interrupted as Hudson was called away. Then a cloth bag was handed over, leaving him confused by what he saw. It revealed a donation of 50,000 gold coins, shocking the young man. He stepped closer, promising to double the donation if they took him to Father Andrew immediately, increasing their surprise. The reflection of the gold coins shimmered in the young man's eyes, dominating his vision. As they led him to the priest, the young man insisted he would accompany them immediately, prompting a question. Changing locations, they saw shelves full of books in an indoor setting, illuminated by the sun. Introducing himself, Father Andrew calmly welcomed the visitor, joining his hands. Inviting him to sit, the priest asked to talk, and Randolph promptly agreed. Seated, the priest mentioned the large donation to the treatment center, and Randolph confirmed the high amount. Then the priest heard that the donation needed to be substantial, considering the minimum amount required for an audience. He then asked the priest if his greed disappointed him, embarrassing Randolph during their conversation. Curiously, he asked how a treatment center in a large city could be experiencing such difficulties. Randolph continued, questioning how such a place could be entirely without funds. Mentioning Sister May, the priest stated that Randolph had brought her after she collapsed, which Randolph confirmed. Recounting the story, the priest explained about Sister May's son, who left and never returned. Many more people lost loved ones. Numerous knights went with Wilhelm, but he never came back either. Speaking of the war, the priest said the city lost many talented individuals and much wealth, but it would recover. However, the real problem began when the Excellency's daughter, Serengeti, returned, surprising the young man. Returning without her legs, she hadn't regained consciousness since then. Many priests, including himself, tried to awaken her, but no one succeeded. Due to impatience, the city's finances worsened, and the Excellency was manipulated by opportunists. He then took out a massive loan, using the city as collateral, spiraling into total despair. As a result, all city subsidies were cut, and the center might close. Despite helping Sister May, they were forced to solicit donations. They lacked everything. Understanding the situation, he asked if Serengeti's coma was due to shock or something physical. They replied that if it were a physical problem, they could easily cure it, but it was a curse beyond their abilities. Pondering the curse, he considered that perhaps the blessing of the stars could break it. Thanking him, he announced he was leaving, as he had business with Marquis Weiser, surprising the priest. Asking for a moment, the priest informed him that the Marquis wasn't receiving visitors due to his reclusiveness. Not calling it a refund, the priest promised to arrange a meeting in a few days, but Randolph said he didn't have time. Smiling, he told the priest not to worry about the donation. It had already been worth it. Just then, someone from outside called out for Father Andrew, asking if he was there. A guard announced that His Excellency ordered the donor to come to the treatment center immediately. Showing the priest, he said that when you have money, doors open easily. As he left, he bid farewell, but the priest called him back, making him stop. Thanking him for his help, the priest greeted him, but the young man told him not to worry about the donation. The priest clarified he wasn't speaking of the donation, but of Sister May, surprising Randolph. Looking aside, a subtle smile appeared on Randolph's face. Thanking him for the reunion, he bid Andrew farewell, maintaining a serious look on his face. Surprised, the priest asked, again, not understanding what Randolph had said. The scene changed to a large, ornate building under a blue sky filled with clouds. In front of the building, a group of people waited, with Isabella and a knight prominently featured. Inside, Randolph and another person sat at a long table, waiting. A bearded man drank from a cup, displaying a serious expression. With a focused gaze, he watched the boy. Pondering the 100,000 coin donation, he wondered if Randolph was a merchant, yet he carried no goods. Apologizing for the sudden invitation, the man introduced himself as Weiser, Lord of the Knight's Garden. In his mind, he realized Weiser's appearance had changed significantly. Recalling, Weiser was a knight famous for his skill in youth. With Wilhelm's help, his daughter Serengeti gained a star and became a transcendent being in Pangenia. She quickly became one of the most powerful individuals on the continent. With his sword, Weiser repaid both anger and kindness. He didn't know if Weiser's appearance or heart was ruined, but something had definitely changed. Knowing the reason for the invitation, he stated that the Knight's Garden was experiencing financial difficulties. Randolph declared he would cure Serengeti. Surprised, Weiser's eyes widened, unable to believe what he heard. Laughing loudly, Weiser admitted he was wrong, having thought Randolph was merely a rich young man. Weiser then asked if they had heard the rumors about him, creating tension. Worried, he questioned the amount needed to cure his daughter, showing his desperation. Suddenly, a powerful fist struck the surface with great impact. Smashing the table, Weiser revealed he had been deceived, losing a great deal. He then demanded what more he needed to sacrifice. Seeing the situation, Weiser ordered them to remove the swindler. With a subtle smile, Randolph stated he didn't need money. He then explained that he couldn't guarantee a cure, but he would try. Curious, Weiser accepted, but questioned Randolph's interest. Quickly, he explained his desire to pay and collect a debt simultaneously. Revealing his identity, he introduced himself as Wilhelm's successor. Asking to go to Serengeti, he promised to treat his daughter. Laughing sarcastically, Weiser questioned the succession. Disheartened, he lamented that many claimed to be successors. Randolph was just another one. Furious, Weiser ordered to kill the young man and his friends. Swiftly, a guard raised his sword over Randolph. Attentive, he watched the movement and prepared for the attack. Defending with agility, Randolph blocked the blow with his own teacup. Ordering a place to be prepared, he left the guard completely shocked by what had just transpired. Astonished, Weiser witnessed the sheer strength. Directly, Randolph asserted he would prove to be Wilhelm's successor. Outside, Weiser and another person watched the events unfold. The scene then shifts to an arena with two figures in the distance. Shocked, one of his friends asks about the unexpected duel. Randolph, deep in thought, scratches the back of his neck. Still unsure how it all came to this, Randolph silently watches his opponent, taking it all in. The opponent is fully armed, wearing a complete set blessed by a priest. The opponent challenges him to confess his lie and beg for forgiveness. Calmly, Randolph asks him not to expose his identity, ashamed of losing. Laughing, the opponent promises not to leak anything, honoring his knight's word. The adversary advances, launching a sword attack. Acknowledging the agility, he admits the speed isn't bad. The attack continues, with the adversary striking a blow. Randolph dodges the opponent's attack as he leaps into the air. He realizes the enemy's attributes must be higher than his own. He knows the equipment difference makes the fight serious. With his sword raised, the adversary brings down a blow on him. Focused, the knight aims the attack, concentrating all his strength. Randolph grinds his teeth, bracing for the inevitable impact. The blow lands squarely, causing an intense and violent shock. Randolph feels the impact, staggering slightly in the arena. Directly, he uses his forehead to stop the blade's guard, bleeding heavily. With a confident smile, the knight realizes he's no swindler. Then, he plunges the sword into Randolph's head, calling him crazy. Watching the blood flow, the knight says his movements are cheap tricks. Weiser appears and explains he's seen many declare themselves successors, seeking fame. However, he states that His Majesty's swordsmanship cannot be imitated. According to Weiser, without showing a glimpse of that technique, no one can call themselves a successor. Admiringly, the knight says Randolph is different from the fakes. He has talent. Bleeding, Randolph laughs and says the knight is getting ahead of himself, wearing full armor. Quickly, the knight explains he only wears the armor by the Lord's command. Swiftly, Randolph lands a blow, and the knight feels it. With a quick movement, Randolph leaps onto the knight, applying force. Then, he unleashes a powerful attack, using the item's strength. The knight observes with a penetrating gaze. With a sudden movement, the sword is thrown to the ground. Randolph then equips an extreme iron sword, preparing to attack. Weiser and the other knight are surprised to see two swords. Then, Hudson, perplexed, questions when he acquired such weapons. Blows follow rapidly as Randolph unleashes multiple attacks. The knight notices the interval between attacks has shortened. In response, the knight defends with his armor, causing sparks. Randolph notes the sword is very light, observing a rocky structure. The knight thinks two-handed swords would cause more damage, but the dual blades don't even scratch him. He continues to attack, realizing it's easier to target defense points. Shocked, the knight notices something unexpected, with blood flowing. Switching weapons, Randolph draws a sword and attacks. With a confident smile, he tells them to witness the true swordsmanship of the Night King. Then, he is enveloped by an intense light, changing into battle armor. Choosing two rewards, he sees several options on the screen. With a proficiency correction, the extreme iron sword appears on the screen. He realizes the base attributes are weak, but the other effects are cheating. Randolph activates the extremity effect when using extreme items. Obtaining an extreme iron sword, he exclaims that it worked. His sword proficiency reaches level 10, replicating Wilhelm's swordsmanship. Randolph advances, striking the knight with speed and precision. Randolph's continuous attacks surprise the knight, who tries to defend himself. Confused, the knight realizes the swordsmanship makes no sense. It's unpredictable. The knight observes that the momentum has shifted, and he needs to retreat to break the flow. Thinking of an escape, the knight finds himself entangled by Randolph's swift swords. He tries to advance, but Randolph unbalances him with his heavy sword. The confused knight questions the existence of such a sword style. He feels that Randolph dominates the space, not just restricts it. When one encounters something incomprehensible, they become perplexed. Hudson, Isabella, and Marquis Weiser are all stunned. Likewise, the knight before him is shocked and unresponsive. Terrified, the knight freezes, his eyes wide with pure fear. Night King Wilhelm's swordsmanship heaven and earth manifests. A wave of wind and dust erupts, kicking up debris into the air. Randolph attacks using his sword and delivering blows. The knight's sword falls to the ground, indicating his imminent defeat. With blood flowing, he admits he lost the confrontation. The knight falls to the ground, utterly defeated. Randolph walks victoriously. He shouts, asking if he needs to show more, challenging the audience. The soldier calls Weiser, still surprised by what he witnessed. Weiser calls Lucas, who responds quickly, showing submission. Then Weiser asks them to escort Randolph with the utmost respect, bowing. With blood flowing, Randolph smiles. Recognized as Wilhelm's successor, sleeping soundly, the young woman had been in this state since the Great Expedition. Weiser lamented that nothing could wake her, not even healers. Looking down, Randolph remained silent, showing great apprehension. Suddenly, a sparkle in his eyes revealed the activation of a hidden special talent. They soon recognized the Demon King's curse and planned an exorcism using stellar energy. Speaking of the uncertainty, he warned that he would try once despite his doubts. Touching the girl's forehead, Randolph began the process with deep concentration. Granting the stellar blessing, he started the ritual, encompassing everyone present. Seeing what was happening, Weiser reacted with great astonishment and awe. Warning that all the stellar energy would be consumed, Randolph pressed on, determined. However, the stellar energy proved insufficient to break the entire curse. Thus, the curse's limit was temporarily removed, offering a small chance. Slowly opening her eyes, she looked confused, understanding nothing. She asked where she was, while the others watched her. At this, the other man reacted with great shock and surprise at the scene. Weiser approached the bed, asking if Serengeti had finally woken up. Opening her eyes, she heard Weiser ask if she recognized him. She uttered Hudson's name, surprising Weiser with the memory. Then, Weiser questioned who the other man in the room was. Hudson, in turn, reacted with a visibly uncomfortable expression. He apologized for being late. Looking at her, Hudson apologized again, calling her Serengeti. Meanwhile, he thought about his plans to gain recognition by taking care of her. Fallen on the ground, the young woman fought on, even after losing a part of her body in battle. Pushing her wheelchair, he promised eternal care for as long as she lived. However, his entire belief crumbled, revealing a major old mistake. Over time, Serengeti's body lost its strength, her vitality slowly fading. Her once strong arms now looked like dry, lifeless branches. Regretting deeply, Hudson knew he had almost lost her forever that day. Hudson asked for forgiveness again, while Weiser questioned who he was. Furious, her father asked about his relationship with his daughter, but the young man spoke of the curse. She rested in bed, and they questioned if his daughter could sleep again. Explaining, he warned that her consciousness would last for 1 month. She needed another star. To break the curse, it was essential to increase the energy and find 5 stars. Urgently, he needed to recover a warrior's memories before others could. He had already recovered 1 star, with 4 remaining to complete the objective. He asked everyone to leave. He wanted to talk to Serengeti alone. So, the two sat down, ready for a very serious conversation. Her father questioned the marriage promise, and he confirmed the union. With a tight mouth, her father showed his strong dissatisfaction. Warning him, her father said he would no longer be able to see his daughter. Imploring, he asked for a chance, promising to be worthy of her. Recalling the expedition's costs, her father spoke about their search for help. Thus, the house of Duke Sien approached, offering financial support. In exchange for the loan, they demanded that Serengeti be handed over to them. Even if Serengeti didn't wake up, he accepted Duke Sien's proposal. Therefore, in 1 month, his daughter would be sent to Duke Sien. To protect the land, the young man must also forget the girl. Sitting beside her, she questioned who he truly was. Revealing himself, he said he was King Wilhelm's successor. Awakening, she said he had no successor. Admiring her, he commented that she didn't accept empty words. Recalling, she mentioned the day he saw a star. Consuming a star, she feared, would change who she was. In a flashback, she reflected on his anxiety at the time. Thinking it over, she understood the desire to maintain her love for Hudson. She asked how he knew something only she and Wilhelm knew. Then he remembered he had given her words of encouragement. Surprised, the girl's eyes widened intensely. Looking back, she heard her name being called. Wilhelm ordered her to shut up and grab something. She cried, realizing it was truly him, asking for his name. Confirming, he said his appearance had changed, but he could tell her more. He remembered encouraging Serengeti, but as a player, he didn't know the details. Because of the star successor class, he had read ancient memories. That act of encouragement didn't come from him, but from King Wilhelm. Wilhelm didn't speak much, so his words were valuable, an act of faith. She warned that she needed to be careful of hunters from then on. Players who possess others and retain memories are called sinners. Most importantly, he wanted to know about his final moments. That day, he was certain he had killed the Demon King. He led the light directly to its core and then the body disintegrated. In that final instant, he felt something strange. Everything suddenly stopped for him. At a crucial moment, he lost consciousness right after without understanding what happened. Then came the end of the game. With the character defeated on the ground, he simply died, and now he asked Serengeti to tell him the truth. He wanted to know what happened, what was behind his death that day. Wilhelm led a massive expedition of 200,000 elite soldiers, all high in morale. Detailed preparations were made for the Demon Realm, based on all collected data. A meticulous strategy was devised, leaving no room for error. Everything seemed perfectly planned. Clearly nothing went as expected. Only destruction remained in that place. Amidst the battle, Serengeti kneels and looks up at the sky. Serengeti's face was weary and badly wounded. Then another ally urges her to go on, saying she will sacrifice herself for Serengeti. Frustrated, her ally states they've reached their limit and tells her to move forward. The one on the ground warns there's no time to stop and tells the other to hurry. Weeping, Serengeti announces that it's all over, but asks them to continue his work. Despite so many lives sacrificed, the mission remained difficult. They couldn't even get close to the Demon King. Defeat was certain. Corpses rise, like lifeless creatures ready to attack. Across the ground, more monsters rise, emitting growls and snarls. They attacked, as if knowing their next moves, suspecting a traitor. Ultimately, the expedition was crumbling from within. Reflecting on the mission's start, she wondered if it had been impossible from the very beginning. But a light appears, indicating the fight isn't over yet. Various creatures watched a strong glow emerge. Suddenly, an intense light explodes, destroying the ground and impacting everyone. A figure emerges and announces that the other seems exhausted. He allows her to rest for a bit, a sword resting on his shoulders. He faces her and says it will all be over soon. Hearing this, the girl is utterly shocked. Known as the God of War, the Night King was a true god incarnate. He had an overwhelming presence, and his strength was unmatched in battle. A single attack from him could alter the very landscape of the area. Even amidst all the despair and the feeling of defeat, Serengeti watches him. Using only a sword, he managed to break through the hopelessness that surrounded them. With a determined look, he shows himself ready for battle. The two are seen walking through the utterly devastated area. Serengeti says she's recovered and doesn't need to go much further, but Wilhelm insists on helping to conserve her strength. Serengeti then asks if they are the only ones alive, receiving a reply about the wounded at the entrance. Wilhelm warns that, if that's the case, at least she needs to return home alive. He reminds her of a time she cried over someone named Hudson, but Serengeti denies ever crying. However, in her thoughts, she confirms that she genuinely didn't cry. Showing determination, Serengeti promises she will return to see that person again. Then, an enormous glowing magic circle appears on the ground, with purple symbols everywhere. Suddenly, Serengeti is startled, her eyes widening at what she sees. Wilhelm smiles wryly, finding the situation quite interesting. Throwing the girl away, he realizes the game just got really tough. Screaming, Serengeti calls out to Lord Wilhelm with an expression of despair. Wilhelm, looking serious, tells Serengeti to go back, marry, or date someone. He tells her to live a good life, as the young woman is thrown far away. Thinking to herself, she believes she can live, even if the expedition fails. The Night King saved her. Consequently, she knows no one will blame him if he returns alone, given the battle's intensity. Showing a photo, the desire to reunite with someone, she's searching for a normal life. Walking through a dark place, Serengeti reveals her hope of returning alive from there. Suddenly, Serengeti appears before Hudson. Apologizing, Serengeti approaches, her voice full of regret. Shouting Hudson's name, she quickly uses a position swap. Realizing something serious, Wilhelm's eyes widen in pure shock. An explosion erupts, scattering sparks across the ground. Enveloping the area, smoke spreads, creating shadows. Looking horrified, Wilhelm urgently calls Serengeti's name. From a distance, Wilhelm watches Serengeti fallen on the ground, appearing lifeless. Lying in bed, she says she survived, thanking Wilhelm for the elixir. Reflecting on the game, he remarks that the events turned out quite dramatic. Afterward, Wilhelm placed a talisman on her to hide her presence from the Demon King. Remembering the talisman, she asks about the upcoming events of the story. Subsequently, the Demon King revealed himself and was defeated, just as Wilhelm remembered. Wilhelm freezes, as if time has stopped just for him, while the scene unfolds. With an expression of agony, the Demon King writhes. Advancing against the shadows, the figure of a warrior stands out, ready to attack. Then, the Demon King is astonished, saying he never expected to be cornered by a 5-star transcendent. However, he warns that this is a fatal error for the Night King. Striking the Demon King, Wilhelm hears that he can destroy the body, but not its essence. Filled with rage, he shouts that he respects the Night King. Even with his body destroyed, he warns that he will claim a new vessel. Moving towards Wilhelm, a dark essence tries to consume the warrior. Forming a shadowy vortex, the scene intensifies. Then the vortex changes, now with golden gleams and hues. The Demon King is surprised, not understanding where this light engulfing him comes from. Seeing a female figure amidst the glow, Wilhelm recognizes Fina. The Demon King curses her, saying she wants to steal his knight's life. Screaming, Wilhelm is engulfed by the light, feeling immense pain. Roaring furiously, he declares he will eliminate Fina. Sitting near the girl, he reveals he has no memories after that moment. It is explained that the Demon King tried to take Wilhelm's body, but Fina interfered. Pondering deeply, he questions what was truly happening during that period. The scene shifts, showing the walls of the knight's garden under a clear sky. Complaining about the frequency, a guard says they've been scheduled too often lately. The other comments saying salaries are late, and many are requesting to leave. Agreeing with his friend, he realizes the information about the delays is true. Turning aside, he asks why his friend suddenly went silent. Suddenly, ahead, a sign of imminent danger appears. Turning quickly, the guard reveals he saw something shocking. Screaming in terror, he warns that monsters have appeared on the horizon. Advancing relentlessly, the monsters rapidly scale the terrain. Shouting in fright, the guard warns that it's a wave of monsters attacking the city. Long ago, a war between light and darkness raged across the continent of Pagenia. A red-eyed demon dominated the battlefields, striking fear into everyone. Amidst the intense struggle, the goddess Rhea lost her life, a tragic moment in the battle. Consequently, the entire continent was swallowed by a profound darkness, covering every corner. After this event, the continent was separated, its passages blocked by the shadowy void. Wishing to reconnect the lands, they heavily invested in developing teleportation technology. People now use these distortions to travel, but neglected portals can cause major problems. Connecting to the dark space, these portals unleash disasters, releasing terrifying creatures. Frightened, the man reacted with panic, seeing danger quickly approach. Spotting the monster, they screamed in panic, indicating a very close and real threat. Advancing relentlessly, a wave of giant monsters swept through the area, causing destruction. Under attack from these creatures, the city found itself in critical danger. Changing scenes, we return to Serengeti's room. Gathering information, Randolph realized the Demon King had attempted to possess his body, and Pina had acted. With many questions, he tried to decipher the situation, uncertain of anything. A blue screen appeared, as time had stopped, preventing the Demon King's death. At this, Serengeti saw everything unfold, proving that game NPCs were unaffected by the time stop. Thus, Game Over appeared, meaning the user might not be able to obtain the Demon King. Therefore, the one who kills the Demon King's essence is not the user, but the player who entered the world. Dying in the game makes you a player, but Wilhelm's was not his first death in this story. You become a player when the strongest character you were creating permanently dies. Always enjoying hardcore games, he used to create many characters, but eventually abandoned them. Now he knows what to do, as this is the most probable path for him to follow. Firstly, traitors interfered with the expedition, acting as if they knew everything. It's said that Serengeti was brave, a leader of heroes, and the expedition failed due to internal conflict. He vows to eliminate every single scoundrel who hindered his path, without exception. Secondly, the Demon King is likely still alive, as his essence was not destroyed. Killing the Demon King is the ultimate goal, to put an end to all this. Suddenly, someone calls him the Holy Awakener, leaving him confused by the situation. A desperate Hudson says the city is in danger, so he asks what happened. Hudson shouts that the city is under attack, leaving him very worried. Then flames engulfed the area as the group observed the chaotic scene. Further off, soldiers and creatures advanced amidst destruction and fire. Warriors confronted aggressive monsters, with blows and blood staining the ground. Isabella then explained that the invasion was a wave of monsters emerging from a warp. Randolph grew annoyed, questioning if Weiser had also squandered the warp's maintenance funds. Mounted warriors charged against the creatures in a well-coordinated and powerful attack. Soon, he realized it was Marquis Weiser approaching, leading the knights. Weiser was surprised to see Wilhelm's successor right there. Asking if he was still in the city, the protagonist inquired about the current situation. The Marquis explained that the city was devastated, with problems at 3 warps. He was shocked, saying that 3 locations at once were driving him crazy. Weiser requested his strength, noting that his help would be very welcome now. A secondary mission appeared on screen to protect the city, and a main mission to seal the rift. He questioned if the system had gone mad, offering a quest under such conditions. Weiser yelled that the city's forces were insufficient to hold on. At this, Hudson pleaded for help in Serengeti's territory, ignoring all reason. Randolph pondered the worst possible scenario for the entire situation. They could still hold out, as only normal monsters had appeared in battle so far. But after 10 minutes, when the hybrid emerged, it would be total annihilation. No one there, not even he himself, could handle a hybrid at the moment. To prevent the hybrid from appearing, they needed to destroy all 3 warps before 10 minutes passed. However, the team recognized their lack of combat power. Normal soldiers defended the city, but they were too few to stop the horde. He thought it was a high-risk situation, with very little chance of success. They couldn't give up the reward, access to the Golden Rules shop. The timing was bad. He couldn't undertake the main mission without proper preparation. The sensible decision, he thought, would be to flee without looking back. There was no reason to waste his life on a hopeless cause. He felt the weight of the difficult situation. Running desperately, everyone called for help amidst the confusion. Facing their enemies, many charged into the heat of intense confrontation. Terrified, he reached out as a shadowy figure emerged behind him. Crying intensely, a child screamed loudly amidst the surrounding chaos. Amidst the massacre, creatures attacked and knocked civilians to the ground. Screaming, she begged for help, calling for her mother in complete despair. Clenching his fist, Randolph seemed ready to face whatever came. Looking resolute, the Lord showed great determination to fight. Receiving support, the wounded man was helped by Father Andrew. Mounting his horse, the Lord ordered all knights to follow him. Advancing together, the knights set out to stop the monsters pursuing the priest. A sword was raised, ready for combat now. Striking a blow, he hit the monster with his sword, spilling blood. Asking him to mount the horse, the Lord told the priest they needed to flee. "I can't yet," the priest murmured, holding the wounded person in the chaotic scene. Seeing a monster with an axe, the old man and the injured one saw imminent danger. Shouting Father Andrew's name, he observed the situation with a tense gaze. Delivering precise blows, Isabella protected those on the ground, blood splattering around. The Marquis was perplexed by what he saw. The priest questioned Isabella, asking about her condition. Moving away from the danger, some people pressed onward. Holding his sword firm, he warned that the mission would be very difficult, allowing them to give up. Showing vials, Randolph said they needed to protect the territory, offering his strength. Lowering her gaze, she commented on the lack of comfort on the journey, receiving a "shut up." Observing the wounded on the ground, a standing Isabella admitted that their help was essential now. Knowing the mission's difficulty, he knew no one in their right mind would accept such madness. Accepting the quest, Randolph explained that he didn't do it out of pity or responsibility for anyone. Amidst the destruction, a large engraved stone stood out, revealing the past. Finally, he revealed his motive, saying he liked intense challenges, then asked for everyone's attention. So, from now on, the group stood ready, facing the approaching multitude. At that moment, the monsters advanced furiously, as he warned they would clear a path through the enemy wave. At his command, the Marquis charges forward on horseback, brandishing his sword, leading the knights. Meanwhile, the city crumbles under the demon attack, with many people fleeing. Questioning the Marquis, a companion asks if he truly intends to advance like this, warning of the risk. The soldier calls the Marquis by name, showing his concern. Knowing it's a suicide mission, the Marquis nevertheless believes they must push forward. Looking at the others, Randolph calls for everyone's attention, reinforcing the decision. From this moment on, the group faces the advancing horde. At that moment, monsters attack en masse, and he warns they will cut through this wave. The Marquis asks if they will truly attack head-on, warning that their current strength isn't enough and they'll be annihilated. Randolph responds by asking if he has another alternative. He says they must destroy the portal outside the castle, or the wave of monsters will never end. Assuring them the path will be cleared, the Marquis looks ahead, tightly gripping the reins. The Marquis shouts for them to advance, leading the charge. Maintaining speed, he orders no one to slow down, no matter what happens. Continuing their advance, he yells for them not to stop, facing the giant monster that destroys the city. Looking startled, the Marquis says he trusts them, especially Lord Wilhelm's successor, ready for combat. Looking at Weiser, Randolph says he ran tirelessly, praising his persistence. Spotting the target, Weiser thinks the distance is good for an attack. Pointing his spear, he warns they are within attack range, preparing himself. Striking hard, Weiser hits the enemy, demonstrating his strength and skill. A large monster snarls menacingly, about to attack. Using a teleportation book, he activates a portal that lasts for 30 seconds. Meanwhile, the city crumbles under the attacks, with the giant monster advancing. Shifting to Russell Forest, the druid looks at the portal, ready for what's to come. The druid declares he came to return the forest's kindness, referring to someone as a friend. Recognizing the forest friend, the druids approach with a confident smile. The druids attack, confirming they will grant the request. In a coordinated attack, Arrows rain down, striking the monsters with force. Shocked, the Marquis asks what's happening. Surprised by the help. Surprised, the Marquis says he never expected the Dryad's help, revealing he had an ace up his sleeve. Thinking of the Russell Forest sub-quest reward, Randolph recalls the unexpected assistance. Recalling the sub-quest, he remembers donating a wind spirit, and that Dryads never betray a friend. Asking to be shown what it means to have friends, Randolph awaits their aid. Trusting in his allies, he firmly grips his bow, ready for battle. The druid sees monsters blocking the entrance, understanding they want to pass through there. Unconcerned, the druid advances, using his magic to clear the way. Concentrating his energy, the druid guarantees he will open the path for them. Launching a magic attack, he fires a beam of energy at the enemies. Then, the beam of energy strikes the castle, causing a major impact. Exploding with force, the magic attack opens a passage. With a cry of pain, a monster is struck, and blood splatters. Another monster is cut in half, showcasing the attack's power. Dust particles and debris scatter across the ground, with trails of blood throughout the area. At that moment, much earth flies as something gigantic seems to have hit the spot. Observing the scene, two armored warriors react, one of them showing astonishment. The warrior then exclaims something, barely able to finish the word. On the ground, a gigantic monster has disintegrated, and everyone celebrates the victory. Full of enthusiasm, the Marquis celebrates on horseback, declaring it a success. Isabella then warns that they now need to destroy the rift. Randolph then comments that the path was cleared easily, but it was a boss monster. With his sword raised, the Marquis celebrates and draws everyone's attention. Too early to celebrate, he warns that the wave of monsters isn't over yet. Explaining the strategy, he reveals they have 6 minutes before the hybrid appears, so they must destroy the rifts. To end the crisis, he announces they will divide forces into 2 units, surprising a warrior. With no time to lose, Randolph warns they cannot leave a rift unprotected. However, an army of monsters may be delayed by the Dryads, but many still guard the rifts. Marching across the plains, several knights advance, and he stresses that 2 units is the limit. Even understanding the point, the Marquis asks about the remaining rift, as there would be no time to return. Pondering the situation, Randolph shows a serious expression, processing the information. He proposes that only he and Father Andrew will go to the last rift, surprising everyone with the idea. Trusting himself, Randolph says this is the option with the highest chance of success. He warns they need to destroy the rifts before the hybrid appears. The sooner, the better. Unsure what to think, the warrior decides to trust him, as he's brought them this far. Relying on the others' trust, the warriors rapidly advance towards their objectives. Isabella then asks Hudson not to doubt him, as he always has a plan. Always achieving the impossible, he will certainly succeed this time, Isabella concludes, trusting him. Asking what the plan is, the priest receives a simple answer. The 2 of them will destroy the rift. Requesting a moment of silence, he thinks of a way to resolve the situation. Meanwhile, Weiser, Isabella, and Hudson have departed for the 2 remaining rifts. However, the problem is the mutant monster, the Dark Warrior, who appears at the last rift. This problematic enemy, unlike the others, cannot be left to the other teams. With Andrew's help, it would be possible in 30 seconds, but delays would decrease the chance. In the end, there was no option but to believe in the plan. With a roar, the Dragon Hydreigon appears, showing that they will succeed. As time passed, the hybrid was about to be summoned, with the rifts being destroyed. Running quickly, Isabella approaches her objective. Time is running out. Then, Hudson races towards the portal. The countdown continues. At the portal, creatures emerged from the rift, but destruction is imminent. The hybrid monster appears. The countdown shows 34 seconds. Randolph realizes that the minimum conditions for victory have been met. Only 1 rift remains, and the aura of a mutant monster is felt, marking a bright spot. Emerging from the portal, the mutant monster appears, revealing its form. A giant explosion occurs at the location. The mutant monster fully appears, wielding a sword. The Dark Warrior emerges, ready for the final battle. With only 1 objective remaining, Randolph grips his sword as power manifests. Manifesting their power, the 2 prepare, as only 1 rift needs to be destroyed. Running quickly, he hears he needs to go to the last available teleport. Noticing time running out, he remembers that the last teleport is for Lord Wilhelm's successor. Activating a special option, an enormous celestial dragon appears right behind Randolph. Showing determination, Randolph's eyes are fixed on the objective ahead. Using the boots of Hermes, he flies with agility, surpassing the other in speed. Holding the sword firmly, he prepares for the next imminent confrontation. Facing the Dark Warrior, he shows great effort and resists the strong attack. Randolph is thrown far away, leaving a large trail. Due to the intense force, he manages to stabilize after the blow. Growling loudly, he shows an expression of rage. Attacking with force, the dragon's multiple heads advance together. As it is hit, the colossal dragon begins to break apart and fall, but quickly, all creatures are defeated. Destroying the enhanced Hydreigon, he hears about the 24-hour waiting period. Emerging from the debris, the Dark Warrior is unharmed by the creature's attack. Without wasting time, Randolph charges towards the enemy. With an enormous impact, he strikes the opponent head-on. Equipping the iron sword, both prepare to fight further. Then, the adversary retreats slightly, moving away with speed. Advancing fiercely, they exchange quick and precise blows with their swords. The priest used his ability to heal the injured arm. The monster, unwilling to lose another chance, charges forward. Meanwhile, Randolph is thrown back, noticing time passing. Looking up, the priest sees the creature far away. Appearing suddenly, the monster startles the priest. Suddenly, his eyes widen, surprised by the scene. Clashing swords, Randolph and the monster exchange intense blows on the spot. The priest begins to fall into the creature's laps. Advancing fiercely, the Dark Warrior finishes off all creatures with one attack. Meanwhile, hundreds of creatures approach them. Staring intently to the side, Randolph's eyes widen as he follows his opponent's movement. Activating the level 1 Star Strike ability, he powerfully hits the group of creatures. Fallen to the ground, the priest merely observes the destruction caused by the powerful attack. Holding 2 long swords, Randolph prepares to attack the enemy ahead. Focused on combat, he lowers his head and observes carefully. Below him is the Dark Warrior. With only 11 seconds left for the invocation to end, he attacks by crossing his swords. After that, a large explosion occurs in the middle of the field, raising a lot of dust around. Spreading a lot of dust through the air, the force of the impact sweeps across the entire battle scene. In this, several drops of blood mark the ground right after the violent direct clash. Randolph ends up being caught by the Dark Warrior's sword. Even after hitting him, he doesn't understand what happened. Taking advantage of the opening, he plunges the blade into his opponent's foot. Smiling maliciously, Randolph warns that now the enemy will be immobilized. Observing the situation, the Dark Warrior seems surprised by what he hears. Next, Randolph shouts Father Andrew's name loudly, drawing attention. Joining his hands, Father Andrew prays. Then Randolph asks him to recite the prayer of reverence. Demanding the prayer, Randolph shouts for him to pray only for Randolph himself. A little earlier, they advance quickly, with 4 minutes remaining until the invocation. Concerned, Andrew asks if they will manage to resolve the situation, even if he doubts it a little. At another moment, Randolph observes the portal, while Andrew says that time would not be enough for them. Indignant, Andrew asks why only the 2 of them came. After all, no one would survive if they failed. Asking Andrew if he wants to save the city, Randolph hears that yes, of course, he does. At this, Randolph asks Andrew to recite the prayer of reverence for him. Explaining the situation, the prayer of reverence is a type of sincere worship of the goddess. If this prayer is offered for another person, the target gains a special power for a short time. Praying this prayer for another person means that the priest is abandoning the goddess, his purpose. Therefore, asking him to abandon the goddess is a very serious act. Describing the pain is almost like tearing one's own heart out. Feeling an enormous loss, it seems as if his entire world has just ceased to exist. In other words, the prayer of reverence is an ability that risks everything for the priest. That's why Randolph asks him to throw away the world he dedicated his entire life to. Curious, Andrew asks how Randolph knew about the prayer. After all, it was a secret. Randolph says it doesn't matter who told him, but rather that Andrew knows what this prayer means. Aware of this, Randolph planned that Andrew's sacrifice alone would increase their chances. Thinking that Andrew would never abandon his people, he knew Andrew wouldn't refuse. Clenching his hand, Randolph convinces him, as if holding the citizens hostage. Potentially resentful, Randolph thanks him, and Andrew bows in a gesture of respect. If Randolph hadn't spoken, Andrew says he would live with guilt forever. Very emotional, Andrew thanks him sincerely, with tears in his eyes. Seeing the priest's emotion, Randolph looks back with a certain astonishment. Considered a true priest and sage, Andrew emanates a bright light around him. Respecting Andrew greatly, Randolph says that the prayer of reverence ability has been activated. Receiving great power, the effect's duration is only 2 seconds. Stating his capabilities, Randolph can imitate the powers of a great warrior. Warning the monster, he says that if it were like before, the fight would be different. Raising his swords, he reveals that technique would never be used against monsters. Drops of water fall, announcing the arrival of a new technique. Beginning the Night King's sword technique, he advances against the enemy. Meanwhile, the Dark Warrior feels the impact of the new technique. Using a powerful blow that tears the world, he attacks with everything he has. Ending the battle, the druids observe the clear sky after the great battle. Looking at the sky, The mother and her child remain puzzled. Shocked, two men observe the situation in the sky. Steadfastly, Andrew looks up, with a surprised gaze. Ending the prayer's duration, Randolph stops using the Star Strike ability. Destroying the portal, he announces that the city was saved at the last second. After all, the main mission was completed, and Randolph leveled up. In a flashback, the priest recalls meeting Night King Wilhelm some years ago. Pleading, the priest begged them not to ignore his appeal. Kneeling on the ground, crying profusely, the priest implored someone to save his poor daughter. Then, he revealed his daughter, Asura, cursed and transformed into a creature. Hiding the girl, her father imprisoned her in the basement, away from everyone's eyes. But with her demonic power growing, he could no longer handle the situation alone. Searching in secret, he wanted someone strong to purify Asura and keep her secret. After some time, a mission appeared, asking if he would accept One Who Knows Honor, 100. Raising his face, he showed a serious and thoughtful expression. Telling him to show the way, he watched the priest get surprised by the answer. Looking up, the scene focused on the imposing ceiling of the place. Then he looked down, observing the floor of the structure. Revealing the girl, Asura appeared there, transformed and with red eyes. Asking if that was Asura, the priest confirmed, counting on his help. Accepting the request, he stated that he would purify the girl. Finally, Wilhelm, the Night King, was revealed as the man who saved the priest and his daughter. At that, the Legion of Darkness returned to the abyss, closing the portal. Asking who he was, the priest wondered how he wielded Wilhelm's swordplay. Responding that he was his successor, he unequipped an item with a smile. Surprised, the priest thought he had been helped by his master's disciple. Blood streamed from his mouth. The priest was shocked, thinking of an incredible destiny. Coughing blood, the priest suddenly felt a sharp pain. Running, Randolph approached, calling out for Father Andrew. Worried, he asked the priest, who was bleeding on the ground, if he was okay. Explaining that his suppressed illness had resurfaced, he said he was using star power to heal himself. Thinking about how difficult it was, he decided he would have to try something. He remembered that Andrew had received help from his master in the past, creating a debt. Andrew, surprised, confirmed that he owed his master a great deal. Randolph offered to pay for Andrew's sins, using the indulgence the priest had given him. Absolving Andrew of his sins, he unleashed a power that struck him. An indulgence, a high priest's pardon, granted only 3 times in his life. In legend, this indulgence forgives any sin in the name of the goddess, as long as it's not one of the 10 cardinal evils. In the game, it serves to reset oppression, a penalty for toxicity, and they have no real physical form. A contract with Dramet was also a type of faith, and he ordered him to uphold the agreement made. In a fury, he cursed and asked how he knew about their contract. He felt his star power returning, realizing it was an item used by the one who issued it. He tried to use it because it had worked with Dramet, and he hadn't expected it to succeed. Then the old man asked if he had received an indulgence from another priest, but he denied it, saying he would know if he had. So the old man asked him to repent and pray together, but he couldn't reveal that he was Wilhelm. He thought of simply knocking him out to resolve the situation right there without further discussion. On horseback, Isabella shouted for Randolph, asking if he was okay. Taking advantage of the situation, he smiled, thinking the timing was perfect for him. He said he was leaving because everyone had come to find him, but the old man insisted he shouldn't go. Then, he suggested the old man think of it as help from heaven. Showing the main quest ranking, Randolph was in first place, still counting his points. Thanking the Dryad, he said they survived because of him, and he replied that it's natural to help friends. The group promised to help friends in danger, even if the city's air was poison to them. After they left, the city began to rebuild, with everything financed by Hudson. Alchemists were hired to fix the distortion, ensuring it wouldn't corrupt again, using Hudson's money. Andrew recovered his star power, but needed rest. Potions were used to heal the injured. Buying many potions, Hudson became irritated, asking if they were only using his money. He asked, if the city was broke, why not do this for Serengeti? At that, they asked if Serengeti had fallen asleep again, and replied that the curse had consumed her. Understanding the situation, Randolph threw something, while the other prepared to catch it. Holding the potion, he was surprised by an elixir of blessings, asking how he obtained it. Then they said to give 1 drop every 2 hours for a month, and her legs would be restored. Hudson asked if he was a gamer and bought it from the shop. He then confirmed yes. Checking the main Quest 4 ranking, he thought his name was Randolph. Randolph, who had created several famous characters, was a legendary player who had recently disappeared. Feeling a bit awkward about being called a legend, he apologized for hiding that he was a player. Asking what he should call him from then on, Hudson received the answer to keep using what he always had. Questioning the purchase, the other explained that he took first place and had a lot of golden rule time. It seemed the city's weak combat strength boosted his score, even without a great individual result. Looking at the golden rule shop, He thought about the vital importance of these items for his journey. Among the White King's Fang, Black Magic Grimoire, and Dragon Heart, he saw unique materials there, especially the White King's Fang. Even he, as Wilhelm, barely escaped without one. So, if equipped items don't disappear but register in the shop, time was more valuable than he thought. Announcing he was going to the next mission, he asked Hudson to take care of Serengeti, who soon exposed a problem. Hudson revealed that Marquis Weiser had agreed to send Serengeti to House Cyan in exchange for a loan. Furthermore, Maxim, one of the 8 heroes, supported House Cyan, and he couldn't stop them alone. Knowing Maxim from the Great Expedition, a mercenary commander, he remembered his escape in the swamp. Thus, planning to confront the 8 heroes, he realized Maxim would be the first one to encounter, then asking Hudson to buy time until his return. He guaranteed that Weiser would be able to hold them off. Returning as quickly as possible, he demanded that Serengeti not be handed over, but Hudson showed concern. Serengeti said she doesn't fight, but she's trustworthy, he explained, surprising the other. Receiving a smile, he said she trusted Hudson and that he was counting on him. With an air of surprise, Hudson seemed to reflect on the words. Bidding farewell, the man wished the other a safe journey. Changing to a ruined landscape, the scene showed a destroyed city. Next, he thanked them for the new clothes he received, saying they didn't need to go that far. Weiser thanked him for his help and wished him a good journey, with other characters observing. Saying he was departing, he asked Hudson to sort out the compensation he had mentioned. Walking through the city, he spotted a large statue. Observing the statue, he seemed to read something written on it. Calling out names like James, Noah, Lucas, Jacob, and Zion, he looked up. Touching the statue, he asked the heroes to rest, for they had fought bravely. Wishing them eternal peace, he thanked them, though it was late, and walked away. Asking about the compensation, a man learned that the successor would pay the families of the fallen knights. Surprised by the generosity, they discovered the amount was 10,000 gold coins per family. Revealing to Hudson that he would foot the bill, a creature with several heads appeared. Asking about his destination, Isabella heard that he was going after what the stars commanded. At this, he revealed that he needed to find someone else, leaving her quite surprised by the news. With a smile, he confirmed that this person was essential to increase the group's combat power. Presenting a hooded figure, he revealed it to be another character he had abandoned in the past, much like Isabella. Then, showing the hooded figure's face, he introduced Isaac, the Thunder Cutter.